What's going on, fellow A-plussers? It is I, your host, as always, Adam Perez, back once again with a brand new episode of A-Plus Hero Report, your weekly stop for your Marvel, DC, television, and movie news right here over on our YouTube page, streaming live for you guys today, along with streaming over on our Facebook page, as well as Twitch for you gamers out there. And believe it or not, I think we actually just opened up an account over on Spotify. So if anything, we will certainly be putting at least a lot of our content over on Spotify, because I believe Spotify just allowed for video content now as well. So we will be joining Spotify very shortly here for you guys as well. So another avenue to certainly go ahead and check out an episode of A-Plus Hero Report. But it's not just myself today. Oh no, that's right. While we necessarily don't have the full council of nerds today, we at least do have half the group here, as we got a good old Stuart Branscombe certainly joining us today. What's going on, buddy? Good to see you, man.
Hey, good to see you. Good to be here. Not much going on, just kind of the same old stuff mostly.
Yeah, how's work been treating you, man? You had a good week so far?
Yeah, definitely. Because I don't know if I've mentioned this, but recently I've stepped down from management just because I want to get
What?
more. Yeah, I wanted more free time so I could actually work on so I could be more committed to the channel, first of all, because I've been really slacking on my side of the content and stuff like that. And so I could also focus on other projects that I actually care about. And it's been going good because I'm still getting paid around the same, because now I actually get the tip money. And funny enough, the tip money kind of makes up for what I wasn't getting paid now that I'm no longer a manager. So yeah, I'm actually really liking it so far.
I was gonna say, I know you live in a pretty expensive area out there, man. Hopefully you didn't lose any income based off of that, you know?
Yeah, not too much. And then plus, I think having two roommates definitely really helps.
Tell me about it. The idea of moving to California solo is frightening to me. I had thought about the idea years and years ago. I always thought, man, it would be great to move to California, get 3 or 4 of my friends and just go ahead and get a house and just split the rent or something like that. But this was years ago. But it feels like that's almost the way to live in California these days. It's so expensive. You got to have a roommate or two, huh?
Yeah, for sure, definitely. Unless you got a really high paying job, which I haven't been able to find one that can afford me that yet.
Sorry, maybe me and Indy will move out to the Bay Area and join you, Stuart. Maybe we'll
please.
Yeah, let's go ahead and get a place. We'll convert one of the biggest rooms into a studio for us or something like that.
No. If we rent a house, we could just convert the garage into a studio. I've thought I've thought that through so much. If I ever got a house, being able to convert a garage into a studio and everything.
I love it. I love the idea, man. Let's see who's joining us today in our live chat. I'm going to go ahead and give some love to people that join us today. Marcelino certainly in the house. He says, hey, guys, finally saw Squid Game. I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it, man. I hope you did too. Good old Datilla certainly in the house. And JB says, what is here as well? He says, hey, guys, been a minute since I've joined. Certainly good to see you, man. Datilla says, I still live with my parents and with my brothers. We managed to pay our rent. Let me know if you ever get a chance to get out on your own, Datilla, and how you can fend for yourself out there in the wild of California, man. I hear it's so pricey, man. I can see why people are moving. Are you gonna move anytime soon, Stuart? Are you happy where you're at?
I'm decently happy where I'm at, but eventually I do kind of want to move to LA, where I know there's kind of more work there in the film industry. Here in San Francisco, it's a lot harder to find, but I mean, it's still out there. I just haven't had the free time to go for it yet.
Are you close to Burbank?
Burbank,
California?
Yeah, I actually don't know where that is. I think I think so.
I just thought they had big movie studios or something out there. I could be wrong though. But while you look that up, I will go ahead and start bringing up our honorable mentions for the day. Well, actually, before we get into the honorable mentions, listen, guys, if you guys do have live viewer questions, feel free to submit your questions over at any time if you'd like to throughout the week to aplusopinions@gmail.com. Again, that's aplusopinions@gmail.com. Feel free to submit them over if you have a question in regards to any rumors, theories, speculations you're reading out there, any news articles you run across, any movies or television shows you watch you want to go ahead and talk with us about or have any questions about. Definitely go ahead and submit it our way. Again, to aplusopinions@gmail.com, and then we'll definitely get to your questions at the end of the episode. I haven't heard from Indy today. I hope he's certainly doing okay. But I'm sure if anything, maybe he'll pop up in here and we'll definitely keep you posted once we hear back from good old Indy today. What's up, Tony? Good to see you in here, man. Appreciate you joining us today.
Okay, so Burbank is near Southern California, so it would actually
Oh,
be
okay.
closer to like Los
Okay.
Angeles and stuff like that.
Gotcha. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, because you're in the northern portion, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Stuart, finally, a question for you, man. Do you have any
Mhm.
honorable mentions today at all?
I got a couple, but like I'm guessing by your thumbnail for more phenomenal, you might have covered
Hey, feel
both of
free
them.
to. Whatever you want to talk about.
But like first one is that Ultraman trailer, or the fact that Ultraman is now out in theaters in Japan.
Oh, it released already?
Yeah, it has,
That
and I
Shin
have
Ultraman?
to,
Oh shit.
yeah.
Okay.
And I have to ask you guys if we have any viewers that are living in Japan right now, please go see this movie because I want this movie to get an international release because I want to watch it in movie theaters in
Mhm,
America. And
mhm.
that's only going to happen if it does really well in the box office in Japan. So please, please watch this movie if you are living in Japan so I can eventually see it.
Was Shin Godzilla released in the States? I
Yeah.
wasn't sure how well it did overseas.
It did really good overseas. I think it was like the best-selling movie that year.
I think it won an award for best movie of the year. I think.
That wouldn't surprise me, but like there was no news about it coming to America when it first got released. It wasn't until like about 2 or 3 months into its release when they finally released it in limited theaters in America. So I'm hoping that happens with Shin Ultraman. You know, fingers crossed. So please go see this movie if you're living in Japan, so that way I can eventually watch it. Other honorable mention is that Kamen Rider trailer that released for Shin Kamen Rider. I really love the cinematography for it.
Oh, it's
I love
gorgeous.
how, yeah, like the framing is so cool. And it's so interesting how they're not going. It looks like they're going for a little bit of a cheaper feel when it comes to the fight scenes. Now that's just what they've shown us so far. So maybe when it comes to like the actual movie in theaters, it might be a little bit more. But it's kind of interesting in that sense. Like I definitely didn't expect them to go for that kind of GoPro kind of feel with the fight scenes. Like I love how it looks like you're like closer up and it makes it kind of feel more grounded. But it's also kind of interesting because it's like when it comes to Kamen Rider, I don't necessarily think grounded. I'm expecting like the wire fu type of stuff. So I'm curious if we're going to get that in the actual movie or what it's actually going to turn in. But I'm definitely intrigued.
Yeah, the whole entire Shin universe in general that they're building over in Japan really has me excited. I mean, you're actually the one that put me on to Shin Godzilla, and I fell in love with it. So the fact that they're bringing back Hideaki Anno to go ahead and direct and write of the remainder of these Shin universe films. I mean, he did Ultraman also for Shin Ultraman dropping this year, and then of course Shin Kamen Rider for next year also. So he feels very much like the Kevin Feige of this cinematic universe that they're kind of putting together over there, and I think he's the perfect person for the job here. But yeah, man, the Shin Ultraman and the Shin Kamen Rider. If you guys have not checked out those trailers, please go ahead and do yourselves a favor, man. I think you'll be really impressed. Couple other honorable mentions on our side we'll get to really quickly here. Stranger Things did go ahead and drop a brand new poster for us here this week. We wind up getting the opportunity to see we got volume 1 that's going to be dropping this month, guys, literally in like 2 weeks, like May 27th, I believe it is. So volume 1, May 27th, volume 2 will in fact be July 1st. This is probably, they've had some really great promotional material for Stranger Things season 4, but I absolutely love this poster. What about you, Stuart?
I freaking love it. What's goddamn? I can't
I get
remember
like
the
Monster Squad vibes from this for some reason, like some sort of haunted mansion vibes. I don't know, man, but it looks great.
the creature in the background though. Kind of the eyes of it just remind me of the main White Walker from Game of Thrones. I can't remember. Is it the Night King or what was he called again?
I believe you're right. I believe that's the Night King.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. But yeah, other than that, like yeah, that poster looks freaking fantastic. I love the Monster Squad comparison that you came up with. That's perfect. I love like it's almost like it's that, but instead of the classic Universal monsters, it's like Monster Squad if they were fighting Lovecraftian type creatures.
I love that. I love that. Absolutely. We also wind up getting ourselves a quick glimpse of a new look at good old Dwayne Johnson as The Rock here in a more fully formed costume as we get to see here, black and white photo, but I absolutely love it. He continues to look stunning, man. This movie drops later on this year. I cannot wait. One of my more highly anticipated movies when it comes to DC. Not only am I looking forward to Dwayne The Rock Johnson's performance, but bring on the Justice Society of America, man. I cannot wait to see it. But what do you think of this shot in general, Stuart?
Looks freaking awesome. Dwayne looks like he's been working out even more than usual, which is definitely saying something. And
like, can you get any bigger, dude? My God.
And it's one of those few suits I've seen where like it doesn't look like it's that padded. It looks like it's just so skin tight, and that's just what his overall body looks like. So I'm super excited for this movie. I think I've mentioned like every time we talk about it, it looks amazing.
Yeah, it does look pretty incredible. And then we also wind up this week, Stuart, Avatar 2. The movie released a trailer. It also released in front of Doctor Strange 2. Also, if you guys haven't had the opportunity, we got ourselves a brand new poster here for Avatar 2, The Way of Water. And we did get ourselves a quick glimpse about maybe earlier this week. What were your first thoughts, man? We finally got footage after what, like 10 years of waiting for this movie to drop. So we finally got our official footage. It's tangible. It's real, Stuart. It's going to happen. What are your thoughts, man?
I thought it looked pretty cool, looking just as good as the first movie, and I love how very consistent the CG looks in the first movie and in the trailer for this movie. So I hope they keep that up when the actual movie comes out. And also, I really love that they don't really tell us too much about what the story's going to be. So there's going to be a lot more mystery going into this one than there was the first movie, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And this was just a teaser trailer, so I'm sure as we get closer to December, we'll get ourselves a couple more official trailers to kind of give us a better glimpse of what the storyline is certainly going to be. But, universal themes is usually what happens when it comes to James Cameron, something that I think all viewers could certainly attach themselves to. And this is definitely going to be very much a family movie, to certainly say the least. But I'm really looking forward to this, man. And then also this week, Stuart, I don't know if you caught this, but Resident Evil has a new Netflix series that's going to be dropping soon. And we wind up actually getting ourselves a little bit of a teaser trailer this week for the Resident Evil Netflix series. I believe it's got the gentleman from John Wick, who's the guy that's that works at the Continental. He's usually at the front desk. We've seen him fighting alongside Keanu in the last movie. I can never remember the gentleman's name.
I know who you're talking about, but I also forgot.
I absolutely loved his voice in general. I remember him from like Fringe, I think is when I was first introduced to him in the Fox television series years ago, the sci-fi series Fringe. But he's going to be in it. And I had the opportunity to check out the Resident Evil series for Netflix. Have you checked it out at all, Stuart?
Not yet, no.
Oh, man.
I knew about the TV series, but I didn't know the teaser had dropped.
Yeah, the teaser had just dropped earlier this week, so I would definitely go ahead and recommend you guys check it out, especially if you're big Resident Evil fans. It feels like it's taking place in two different time periods, a current time period for 2022 for a new Raccoon City, if you will, and the trailer teases a great flash forward to London in 2023 or 2033 or 36, I believe, where pretty much all hell is broken loose. So whatever experiments they were certainly doing in Raccoon City in 2022 definitely had its effects. But definitely go ahead and check it out if you guys haven't done so as of yet. But more Resident Evil is certainly headed our way. And I think that will wrap up our honorable mentions today.
Already looks way better than the Resident Evil movie that came out last year.
It does look like they've put some effort and budget certainly behind it. I am curious, again, this is just a teaser, so we don't really know what the storyline details are, but visually it looks pretty good. It looks pretty good for what we're going to see. So whether or not that means a great season, we'll definitely keep you guys posted for sure. Let's see here. Who else we got in here? Good old Enrique Perez certainly coming through. Chippendale Rescue Rangers movie is almost here. Can't wait to see it. I've still not watched the trailer for this, Stuart. I believe you told me last time I need to check it out.
Yeah, it's not what you think at all. You definitely need to check out this trailer. It's I don't remember if I've said this before, but I had an idea for a movie with almost this exact same plot, but I can never figure out how to like make it work as an actual movie or anything like that. It looks like whoever wrote this movie, Chip and Dale, like had that exact same idea, except for they actually knew how to structure that into the form of a film. So I'm really excited to see how it turns out.
All right, I'll have to check it out, man. Is this going to be like a new Sonic in a sense?
Kind of.
Has the potential to be.
It definitely has that potential. It's more like kind of a more modern Who Framed Roger Rabbit, in the sense of
Oh,
it's like there's real people, but then there's also animated creatures as well that just live amongst people and that kind of
okay.
stuff.
Okay.
But they take an interesting direction with it, which is where like my idea for a movie came in. And again, I could never figure out how to make it like actually work, but it looks like the writers of this film actually did.
All right.
So yeah.
Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers. I might have to put you on my radar. I definitely will check out the trailer later on today for sure. But all right, guys. I think with the honorable mentions out of the way, again, those are just simply topics that didn't quite make the cut to certainly be talked about today. But we definitely wanted you to be aware as to what's certainly going on around the nerd pop culture community. But other than that, Stuart, are you ready to get into our five, or how many topics we got today? One, two, three, four, five, six. So are you ready to get into our six main topics today, Stuart?
Hell yeah.
Let's do this, man. First topic we're going to go ahead and certainly talk about today brings us to the Scream franchise, which the reboot of Scream certainly came and went. And it actually wind up having a pretty significant impact. I think it did relatively well over at the box office compared to the budget. Certainly shows that people definitely are still in tune with the franchise, ready for more scares and ready for more Ghostface, as always. So Scream 5 recently came out, did pretty well, had some pretty good reviews to certainly say the least. So much so that it has recently been announced that a Scream 6 is certainly on the way. I'm gonna be honest, Stuart. I have still not had the opportunity to check out Scream 5. It is certainly on my to watch list. Me and the girlfriend are definitely doing a little bit of a Scream marathon, if you will, to go ahead and play catch up. But I'm really eager to dive into Scream 5 because of the fact that it's getting a sequel. It must be pretty good. I'm not sure if you've had the opportunity to see it for yourself, Stuart, but I'll definitely go ahead and ask you here in just a minute. But we've got some casting announcements in regards to what we can expect from the upcoming sixth Scream film, as we have not only some returning members from the previous one, but even some returning characters from even before the fifth one. Stuart, let's go ahead and dive into this one, man. I'm really excited because one of fan favorite and one of mine, at least, from a classic show you guys might know by the name of Heroes, good old Hayden Panettiere is back in the news. I feel like I haven't seen her or heard from her since her show. I believe it was Nashville that she was certainly on. Wind up canceling, I think, after like 5 or 6 seasons. Definitely made a name for herself on that series as well. But Hayden Panettiere is set to return to the Scream franchise, in which I believe she starred in the fourth film. So let's go ahead and dive into this and see if we have any other details about this return from good old Hayden Panettiere herself. So let me go ahead and pull this up. This comes to us from the Hollywood Reporter. Give this bad boy a second to load. You know, I give all these pages the opportunity to load before we even go live, but even having to come back to the page is always a struggle. So let's go ahead and dive into this, man. This is from the Hollywood Reporter. Hayden Panettiere returns to Scream, joining newest installment of the horror franchise. This is an exclusive report from the Hollywood Reporter as well. They do let us know that Melissa Barrera, Jasmine Brown, Mason Gooding, and Jenna Ortega, who starred in January's reboot for Scream 5, are in fact ready to come back also. So we do have that big announcement as well for you guys. But good old Hayden Panettiere is back. So it says she is returning to the world of Scream. Panettiere, who was one of the stars in the 2011 Scream 4, has closed the deal to reprise her character in the latest installment of Spyglass Media and Paramount Pictures horror franchise. The two companies resurrected the slasher movie series in January with Scream, also the name of the 1996 original that started it all. The fifth installment, which proved audiences were craving some bloody thrills, as it tallied more than $81 million domestically and $140 million worldwide. A sequel was quickly put into the works, and this week it was announced again. Melissa Barrera, Jasmine Brown, Mason Gooding, and Jenna Ortega, who survived their ordeal with Ghostface, would be returning. Principal photography is also slated to start this summer. So a quick turnaround from the idea of your movie being released officially out of box offices, and now they're certainly ready to go ahead and get back in front of the camera it definitely feels like maybe they had a story on hand just in case this certainly were to happen. But always fantastic news for the Scream franchise. It does say in Scream 4, Panettiere played Kirby Reed, a teen in fictional and terror-filled Woodsboro, California, the setting for the Scream franchise stories. While initially a best friend type, Reed rising to hero status by the end, which also sees her near mortally wounded, but now a survivor. Plot details for the new feature are being kept under the cloak, but the company said that the new feature continues with the 4 survivors of the Ghostface killings as they leave Woodsboro behind and start a fresh chapter. So it does seem as though the returning cast seemingly will probably bump into Kirby at this particular point in time. It says the creative team behind the reboot is all back for its latest endeavor. James Vanderbilt and Guy Busick return to co-write the screenplay, while they have the other filmmakers collectively known as Radio Silence are back as directors. So I think that's really great news, honestly, if you ask me. The idea that you're really bringing everybody back behind the camera will definitely continue to give you the same sort of feel that you wind up getting from the very first or I should say the newest edition of the Scream movie. But let me go ahead and throw this over to you first, Stuart, just to kind of get your thoughts. You hear this, Hayden Panettiere is certainly back, set to reprise her role as Kirby Reed from Scream 4. Have you seen her Scream movie? Have you seen the most recent one? And what are your thoughts about this?
Oh man, you know what's sad is that it's been so long since I've seen Scream 4 because I watched it when it first came out. But I think that's the Scream movie I've watched the least amount, so I genuinely don't remember like how significant her role was in that movie. But yeah, I mean, if they're bringing her back, I'm all for it. They brought back another kind of character from Scream 4 in the 5th Scream movie, so you know they wanted to bring back other characters from that movie. I'm totally down with it. And yeah, she's also a pretty good actress because like I've seen her in quite a few things actually. Like I was just looking through her IMDb and realized that like she's an actress like that just kind of feels man, I don't know how to say this without sounding mean because I don't mean this in a mean way, but like she feels like she's just kind of always there, but like you never really pay mind to her because she's always playing kind of the more side characters type of thing. You know, like a what's a good example on here? Shoot, I had one, but then I lost it. But regardless, yeah, it is cool that they're bringing her back, and we'll see how she does. Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of eager for this. You know, for me, when it comes to my history with Scream, it was one of those situations where I definitely saw the first one, definitely saw the second one, probably reluctantly saw the third one. But after the third one, I kind of fell off of the franchise myself. So I did wind up missing out on Hayden Panettiere in Scream 4. But she was definitely impactful enough for people to certainly remember her character. The idea of her coming back seemingly has a lot of people really excited as well. So apparently her impact in Scream 4 certainly will play a pivotal role going forward. And I love the idea of always bringing people back from previous iterations of the movie or this franchise and sticking them with a new group of people. Like the idea of having some of survivors kind of helping the new group of survivors through all of this, I think really makes a lot of sense in regards to bringing certainly Kirby back. So it is a movie I probably will go ahead and certainly check out for myself once again, just so I can kind of see what Hayden Panettiere certainly is bringing to the franchise. But I've always really enjoyed her as an actress. I mean, I remember seeing her a long time ago, and I think she was in Remember the Titans as like a young kid. I think she was like one of the coach's daughter, something like that, and was always the cheerleader for the team when it comes to Remember the Titans. But I absolutely loved her ever since she was a little kid, and just seeing her continue to grow. But you're right, I don't feel like she's gotten sort of the recognition that she probably deserves, or the fact that she was in Heroes, Remember the Titans. She was also in Nashville and stuff. I really would like to see her in movies once again, maybe in a bigger role, maybe even as a lead, if you will. But I kind of like this. I mean, there clearly is momentum behind her side, especially when it comes to the Scream franchise. I think for me, the most important thing is the fact that they are bringing everybody back from the previous one. So you do get that continuity, not just storyline wise, but just feel wise. And I think that's going to go a really long way. And hopefully, Hayden Panettiere will have a pretty big impact on this next one. Who knows? I'm kind of curious if she was a survivor in her movie. I am kind of curious if she in her movie and if she'll still be a survivor by the end of this one. Is the question that I have, sort of thing. Will she meet her demise in this movie? What do you think, Stuart?
The thing I love about the Scream franchise is that they are not afraid to kill legacy characters anytime a new movie comes out. So just because they've been in a previous film does not mean that they're safe. So yeah, there is a good chance we could see her biting the dust in this next Scream movie.
Yeah, I definitely think so also, but we'll see how it goes, man. But listen, guys, I want to know your thoughts. If you have had the opportunity to see Scream 4 or even some of Hayden Panettiere's past work, what do you think about her return to the franchise? I think, if anything, I think it's probably good for the franchise overall, but I'm kind of curious to know what you guys think. So let your thoughts be known in the live chat or the comment section box below. Save the cheerleader, save the world, right, Stuart?
Yeah. One thing I will say, so you said you haven't seen Scream 5, right?
I have not. No, it's on my queue list too. Like, there's a part of me that wants to just dive into it, even though I haven't necessarily caught up, but I do wonder if that's doing a disservice, you know what I mean, to the movie. I wonder if it's better if I have had seen all 4 before going into the 5th one, and it kind of feels like I kind of need to, man.
I might want to re-binge the first 4 movies and then rewatch the 5th movie again. But I personally really like the 5th movie. And what's interesting is that it's not directed by Wes Craven, but it feels like it's directed by Wes Craven. Like, if I didn't know he didn't direct it going into it, I would have thought it was a Wes Craven film.
Now, they said James Vanderbilt, and I'm wondering if I'm thinking of the same person or not. James Vander... Oh no, I'm thinking of somebody else. I was thinking James Vanderbeek from Dawson's Creek.
Oh,
that's what I was thinking. I was like, man, he's writing Scream. I had no idea he was into that. I had no idea. But yes, I had the wrong person in mind. But yeah, guys, go ahead and let us know your thoughts, man. Hayden Panettiere certainly coming back. We got the some of the survivors from Scream 5 certainly going to be joining Kirby in the 6th installment. Definitely let me know your thoughts in the live chat or the comment section box below, guys. And with that, Stuart, we will go ahead and move on to our next topic. And when it comes to this next topic, we continue to jump into another franchise filled with controversy at the moment. As over the past couple of weeks, we've been trying to do our best to keep you guys in the loop as to what's going on with the Fast X movie. That's right, the next installment to the Fast and the Furious franchise. As just a couple of weeks ago, while filming had just recently begun, good old Justin Lin wind up departing the franchise himself. There have been some stories that have been coming out exactly as to why, and it's hasn't been looking too good. But I will say this, Stuart, despite the hiccups and the hills and valleys that Fast X has had to deal with its production so far, they continue to roll out huge names in regards to casting announcements, in regards to who's going to be in this movie. I am kind of curious if they're making these big casting announcements to divert our eyes away from the destruction that's certainly happening when it comes to the franchise itself when it's filming right now. But they've been some big names. I mean, Jason Momoa is now attached to this. Good old Brie Larson, Captain Marvel herself, is going to be in this movie. And this week, we wind up getting ourselves a brand new casting announcement as good old Alan Ritchson from Jack Reacher has officially joined this franchise, as he's going to be set to join Fast X here as well. Some of you may certainly know him from his the DC or the HBO Max series in Titans, as he wind up playing Hawk in that series as well. But after his time in Hawk on Titans, he has in fact been attached to the Jack Reacher Amazon Prime series, as he is in fact the main star of that show. So from an action franchise and Jack Reacher to Fast X, this feels like a natural fit for him. So let's go ahead and dive into this article. This is from good old Deadline.com, saying Fast X for Jack Reacher star Alan Ritchson joins next installment in the Fast and Furious franchise. Fast X, the 10th installment in the franchise, looks to have rounded out its all-star cast with Alan Ritchson, the breakout star of the new Jack Reacher series for Amazon Prime. Ritchson joins as the pick just set Louis Lederer to replace Justin Lin as director. Can you do me a favor, Stuart? Can you look up Louis Lederer real quick just to see what else he's directed? The film is in production with Vin Diesel in the core Fast cast, returning alongside franchise newcomers Jason Momoa and Brie Larson. It does say that Ritchson seems like an ideal casting for this franchise following his breakthrough performance as the title character of Prime Video's Jack Reacher series. The series featured incredible set pieces with Ritchson. I can never pronounce this dude's last name. And he should fit right into it with Momoa, Diesel, and John Cena when it comes to eye-popping set pieces and eye-popping physiques, I should add as well. I mean, this dude is ripped. Alan is ripped. Jack Reacher has renewed for a second season, and Amazon recently inked him for a 3-picture deal. So big things are definitely headed Alan's way, and now being attached to this franchise, things are looking up for him, if I'm not mistaken. Was he also Aquaman in Smallville, Stuart, or am I thinking of somebody else?
I believe he was Aquaman in Smallville. If it wasn't Smallville, it was a separate series that he had a pilot for that never took off.
Yeah, I think he was introduced in Smallville, and then they tried to create a pilot, and I don't think it got off the ground so much. So Alan's definitely been through the ringer, I think, when it comes to Hollywood in regards to trying to get where he's at certainly right now. And he's definitely certainly made a name for himself. I think this is great casting, Stuart, personally. While I don't necessarily look, I haven't seen him in Jack Reacher, so I'm not exactly sure, especially like as a lead role. I haven't really seen him what he can do in regards to handling an entire series. I mean, the fact that Amazon is ordering the second season of Jack Reacher, inked him to a 3-year deal. They clearly see big things for him, and his impact on Jack Reacher definitely helped get him and land him this particular role. So I've always seen him sort of as that sidekick, that supporting character, if you will. His time in Hawk, I really enjoyed him like the first season, and I even enjoyed him a little bit in the third season. Season 2 is kind of where I felt like Hawk kind of lost his way a little bit, if you will, but I did enjoy his performance as Hawk, especially when we had to deal with some flashback sequences of him and his brother. You can really see him tapping into that emotional side of things. So there definitely is some range to Alan, but I haven't had the opportunity to check it out in sort of a lead role as of yet. But the fact that he is a part of a big action series like Jack Reacher, I love both the movies. I believe they were both Tom Cruise movies, if I'm not mistaken. But the idea that he's fitting perfectly in this series, that they have these big action set pieces and stuff, this just feels like a cakewalk here for Alan being a part of Fast X. And I'm kind of curious if he's going to be an antagonist or a protagonist in here. Do you have any thoughts as to how we can see him possibly fit in this series, Stuart?
Oh man, I feel like there's a million ways that you could put him into the series, like just having him be a henchman to having him be a secret brother to someone that no one brought up until just recently. I did remember hearing from a Kevin Smith podcast that like Jack Reacher to him is like one of the most satisfying shows to watch ever.
Really?
Yeah, he gives like a breakdown of how like creative a lot of the action scenes in the series are. So yeah, it is a show that's been on my radar for a little bit. I just haven't had a chance to check it out. But
yeah, I haven't pulled the trigger on it. But yeah, what are your thoughts in this?
Yeah, I think he's a really good actor. I think he's going to fit in with the Fast and Furious franchise really well. He can definitely adjust to kind of whatever role they need him as, like whether it be like really big dumb action star or really big emotional dumb action star like in Titans. You know, I think he does it really well, and I think it's perfect for the Fast and Furious. So I definitely think this is a win for them for sure.
Yeah, I think a lot of their casting that we've seen has been pretty strong. It's just one of those things where I don't want to say this feels like the Expendables. It's almost feeling like it's kind of becoming the Expendables. The idea of like just gathering all these action stars for modern day that you absolutely can and thrust them into this franchise, and it works for the Fast and the Furious franchise. I mean, they definitely know what it is that they certainly want to be as a franchise, and it's worked. And so the fact that they've been able to get such great talent, that also is great when it comes to action films. It's been a win-win scenario for them, man. And each iteration of Fast and the Furious, just based off of what they do in the box office, man, the people continue to devour it. So I'll be curious to see how Fast X winds up doing in theaters.
Yeah. Oh, also, I looked up the other things that Luis has directed, and it's really just going to depend on the script because he has a very mixed IMDb, to my opinion. Because there are some really good things on here, like he directed this TV series Dark Crystal, Age of Resistance, which I don't know if you've seen
Netflix?
that on Netflix.
Yeah, that was a good one.
It was. So he definitely has some good stuff under his belt, but he also has, movies like Clash of the Titans. He also did The Incredible Hulk, which I thought was okay.
I didn't mind that one. I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, my issues with it isn't really the directing. It's more the writing. Although I guess I also wasn't a fan of Bruce Banner's girlfriend in that movie. I forgot her name, but she's normally a good actress, but like she was really bad in that movie. And then he also did Transporter 2.
Liv Tyler, I think is what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Transporter 2. See, when you say Transporter, first off, let me just say I cannot stand those damn movies. And those are movies in which you really have to suspend your disbelief when you watch them, and it almost makes me think that because of his Transporter movie, this is why he's like the fit for Fast X. Like, just as crazy as Fast X has just gotten in regards to jumping the shark, those are the Transporter movies. And so like he feels like he fits perfectly into just doing the most ridiculous shit on screen with cars that you could possibly imagine. So if you can hold your disbelief, he's probably the director for you, man, for sure.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I can't. But there was a scene in a Transporter movie I watched one time when you got Jason Statham driving in this car and he's got a bomb attached to the bottom of it. He's driving really fast along this like the docks or something like that, and he realizes there's a bomb on the bottom of his car. So in order to detach it, homeboy notices a crane in the distance. He goes and he hits this huge ramp right with his car, and his car goes up and it turns upside down. And as it turns upside down, the crane hits the bomb off the bottom of the car, and the car continues to flip over, and he lands down and just keeps driving like it was like it was nothing, man. Just the most ridiculous shit you've ever seen in your life.
That sounds very Fast and Furious.
Very Fast and the Furious, bro. And he's gonna be perfect, I think.
True story. When my friends and I saw, I think it was the 6th Fast and Furious movie, and they had that end credit teaser where it cuts to Tokyo Drift, and we see Han die, and then we see him go into the phone and going like, "Dominic Toretto, you don't know me. You're about to." My friends and I, all thought that was supposed to be them confirming a Transporter crossover. Like, we all thought he was playing the same role from Transporter, but then that ended up not being the case.
I love me some Jason Statham, man. I think he's fantastic, a great actor, great when it comes to action sequences. But man, the Transporter stuff is a little bit hard to swallow from time to time. But it might work. It might work for Fast X, but we'll definitely go ahead and keep you guys posted. But what do you guys think of the great casting choice that we wind up talking about here? Good old Alan Ritchson from Jack Reacher, now a part of the Fast and the Furious franchise. Let your thoughts be known in the live chat or the comment section box below. And Stuart, with that out of the way, we will go ahead and switch over to our next topic and dive into our third one for you guys today. As you know, we don't really talk too much about this franchise here on Hero Report, which is a little bit of a shame because I'm actually a really big fan, despite the fact that I think over maybe the past 2 or 3 seasons, I haven't really kept up with it as much as I certainly used to. But I used to dive deep down into the Doctor Who franchise for quite some time. And I feel like, Stuart, we need to give Doctor Who some shine here, especially in considering the fact that Jodie Whittaker is not only exiting Doctor Who, but you know what that means? It means we've got ourselves a brand new Doctor on board. If you guys have not checked out the Doctor Who series, let me say this. I don't necessarily think it's for everybody. It's as hardcore science fiction as you certainly get. And if you're into that type of stuff, please go ahead and enjoy Doctor Who. They did go ahead and reboot the series, or at least continue the series in a more rebooted format back, I think, in like 2005. And it's been going relatively strong ever since then, having like Christopher Eccleston, I believe, as the Doctor at some point in time. We also had Matt Smith as a Doctor as well. Good old David Tennant also certainly coming through. Peter Capaldi, which I was certainly a really big fan of. And then, of course, recently as Jodie Whittaker. If I am missing any other recent Doctor Who's, I certainly do apologize, doctors. But the list continues to grow. Now we wind up having ourselves a brand new Doctor Who has officially been announced as this week, Stuart. So let's go ahead and dive in and present everybody with the new Doctor. This comes to us from Variety.com. So we go from Jodie Whittaker to good old Ncuti Gatwa, who will in fact be the new Doctor. According to Variety, says new Doctor Who revealed. Sex Education star, which is a Netflix series, Ncuti Gatwa has in fact been confirmed by the BBC. It does say here the new Doctor has been unveiled, and it's Sex Education star Ncuti Gatwa. Gatwa takes over from Jodie Whittaker, who has played the iconic role since 2017. The actor's departure was revealed in July of 2021, and there's been widespread speculation ever since around who will be replacing her, with rumored names including It's a Sin star Ollie Alexander and Lydia West, and even Michaela Cole. The BBC confirmed that Gatwa's casting on Sunday afternoon, just hours before taping of the BAFTA TV Awards, suggesting that there could be some references to Doctor Who during the ceremony. It does say that the 29-year-old Scottish actor was born in Rwanda and broke out in Netflix comedy Sex Education, where he plays Eric Effion, best friend to Asa Butterfield's Otis. He is the second Black actor to portray a doctor, following Joe Martin, who played fugitive Dr. Ruth Clayton in a 2020 episode. Gatwa does say this role and show means so much to so many around the world, including myself, and each one of my incredibly talented predecessors has handled that unique responsibility and privilege with utmost care. I will endeavor my utmost to do the same. So yeah, Stuart, we wind up having ourselves a brand new Doctor Who, Ncuti Gatwa from Sex Education on Netflix, as he's set to go ahead and take up the next spot here. I'm not sure if you're familiar with what he's done in the Sex Education series, but let me know your relationship with just Doctor Who in general, and what do you think about this casting choice?
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think I've seen anything that he's been in. Although what's funny is he is going to be in the upcoming Barbie movie, apparently.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Looking at his IMDb.
Okay.
But yeah, my relationship with Doctor Who, my girlfriend got me into it back in like 2015, and the two of us basically kind of binged from oh god, why do I always forget that first guy's name? The guy
Christopher
that played
Eccleston.
Yeah, Eccleston.
He's kind of forgettable for me, honestly, but that's
yeah, because he was only in like 9 episodes before they replaced him, and I guess it was because like he just disagreed with the writers' politics. I think that's what he mentioned in like an interview. But regardless, from 2005 all the way to Matt Smith, like I watched all those all the way through, and then when Peter Capaldi became the Doctor, I watched the first season of his series, and then when Jodie, what was her last name? Whittaker, yeah, when Jodie Whittaker became the Doctor, I watched the first season of her series, and yeah, that's kind of how it's been like for the past while. I haven't really caught up on Doctor Who for a while, but it's been a show I've been talking about going back to, but I've been talking about going back to it for like years now, like ever since we had our first new Doctor with Jodie. I've been wanting to go back to Peter Capaldi and rewatch all of his series, but I still haven't done that yet, and I feel like I really should at some point.
I absolutely love Peter Capaldi's run, honestly. Him, along with his companion, her name is slipping my mind. I think she's absolutely gorgeous and a fantastic actor. But I really love their chemistry on screen. It really always reminded me of Rose and the Doctor that we had between was it Billy? Damn, I can never remember her name now. The actress that played Rose along with David Tennant. I always thought their chemistry was fantastic, very similar to what Peter Capaldi and his companion certainly had also. So I would definitely go ahead and recommend checking it out. He does get a brand new companion in his last half of his season's run, which is the season I wind up falling off of. I didn't watch his last season, nor have I had the opportunity to check out the Jodie Whittaker stuff, even though, like you, I've been saying I need to get back into Doctor Who, and I haven't done so in a couple of series. Maybe this will go ahead and certainly change my view and get me back into it. I think this is great. I will say this. I was not sure if Ncuti Gatwa was in fact going to be the first Black Doctor. The fact that the article does reference that we have sort of had a Black Doctor Who before, back in a 2020 episode, it has at least been done. But the idea of maybe being a lead for an entire series when it comes to a Black Doctor, pretty monumental, I think, and a really huge step forward in regards to it. And I feel like over the past couple of seasons, we definitely have gotten an opportunity to see Doctor Who expand itself a little bit more, with some pushback, I'm quite sure, with some people in the community, whatever case may be. But I love the idea here of this man getting the opportunity to be the next Doctor, and we'll certainly see. If anything, I will be curious to see who his companions are. I believe we got Russell T Davies that's come back to Doctor Who. I believe he used to do Doctor Who a while back, and I think he might have left. I could be wrong, guys. It's been a couple of years since I've watched Doctor Who, so correct me if I'm wrong in the chat. But I am kind of curious to see, writing wise, what they're going to go ahead, what type of material they're going to have for Ncuti Gatwa's Doctor Who, and really just the type of personality that he's always going to bring. That's always one of the things about new doctors that always fascinates me, because with each doctor, it feels like, well, there's definitely a bit of the people that came before you. There's always a new interesting spin in regards to personalities, in regards to who the new actor is and how they portray the Doctor. So this should be fun. It should be a pretty interesting experience to see what Ncuti winds up bringing to the role. But I'm pumped for it, man, and I'm really eager to see how it turns out for him.
Yeah, definitely. I'm definitely, at the very least, I can say for sure I'm going to be checking out his debut. So whenever they do like the transition, because I always love those episodes, and I'll try to see if I can at least watch his season before maybe deciding once again whether or not I actually want to go back and watch all of it all the way through again and catch up.
So me and the girlfriend have definitely tried to go back and watch some Doctor Who. A little bit slow going. It's one of those things where we definitely put it on when there's nothing else that we're certainly watching, or something to put on as like background noise and just kind of catch up. So I am right now in the David Tennant era of Doctor Who once again.
Nice.
But we are pushing forward in regards to eventually get into some of the newer things. But I've always been, I don't want to say I've always been a fan, but it's definitely the David Tennant. I've always seen David Tennant as my Doctor. Do you have a particular Doctor, Stuart?
So David Tennant's my favorite Doctor, but the Matt Smith Doctor Who, I feel like, is so much better written than the David Tennant, because like David Tennant's era, I feel like, it has like this pattern of having such an amazing first and second act, but then the third act to every episode is always just so annoyingly bad that it's just like, it frustrates me because I want to love it more. But like with Matt Smith, I feel like that was when they finally figured out how to like end each episode properly.
I get you. Yeah, Matt Smith was always a difficult one for me to get used to. He always felt like just the I want to say the oddball, but he was always so goofy to me. I didn't know how to feel about his personality, sort of thing. Matt Smith, I definitely enjoyed his episodes, but I always referred back to David Tennant and even Peter Capaldi as like some of my favorite Doctors. But I haven't even had the opportunity to check out Jodie Whittaker, so I don't really have an opinion on her as of yet. But I do want to see what she wind up bringing to the role. So I should certainly go ahead and check it out. Marcelino does say, he says, I tried watching Doctor Who with the original, but I could not get into it. It also did not help that a lot of the original episodes were lost and are still lost. And trust me when I say, Marcelino, I have tried to go back and watch Doctor Who from the beginning. It is very difficult to certainly get through, especially if you're watching black and white episodes, trying to hunt down some of the lost episodes that BBC, I can't remember if there was like a fire and wind up losing a lot of their stuff. And so the idea of trying to put together a Doctor Who library is like nearly impossible. It feels like people have literally discovered new Doctor Who episodes because of people that have maybe accidentally recorded it on like a VHS like years ago. You know what I mean? Like that's how far back Doctor Who certainly goes. So the fact of Doctor Who having a iteration years ago, back in like I don't even know, was that the 60s, maybe longer than that? I'm not quite sure, Stuart, how far back Doctor Who goes, but then taking a stop, reinventing itself and coming back in 2005. If you are going to get invested in Doctor Who, I would maybe suggest doing that with the Christopher Eccleston stuff back in 2005, and jumping on board then. And if you liking what you're seeing, then maybe try and go a little bit further back and check out some of the legacy Doctor Who's, if you will, because I do think they've got some good episodes in there. But I think it is a hard pill to swallow for some people if that's your first introduction to this franchise. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Also, I do have to say, looking back at the original Doctor, because I haven't watched it all the way through, but I've watched like clips of it here and there. It was amazing when they switched to Jodie from Peter Capaldi to Jodie. Before they did that, they had this like TV special where they brought back the first Doctor, but he was played by the actor that played Filch in the Harry Potter movies. And he did such a great job, like, of bringing back his like mannerisms and everything. The only like main difference is, of course, like his voice, but like look wise, they kind of nailed it with him.
Yeah, I absolutely love that special. I know exactly what you're referring to. I think they might have brought back some other doctors as well from the past for that episode. I can't remember.
Well, at the very end, they use like stock footage to bring in like every Doctor that came before.
I think that's what it was. Yeah, it was a great episode. But yeah, guys, if you haven't had the opportunity to check out Doctor Who, please go ahead and do yourselves a favor. And who knows, if you guys want to go ahead, haven't checked it out, maybe Ncuti Gatwa will be your first Doctor that you certainly go ahead and check out. So certainly go ahead and give Doctor Who a chance, especially if you're a big sci-fi head, certainly like myself. But just embrace the nerdiness of Doctor Who, and I think you'll be fine. All right, guys, and with that topic done, we will go ahead and transition over to our next one. Well, Marcelino does say, I think I'm just not into science fiction that Doctor Who explores, so I don't think I would be into it regardless if I watched the 2005 version. Well, if you know yourself, Marcelino, you probably know yourself better than I do, man, so you probably know what your taste is certainly like. But yeah, when I say it's definitely hardcore sci-fi, I definitely consider it hardcore sci-fi. Would you, Stuart?
For sure, yeah. It's educational hardcore sci-fi.
Maybe that's what it is. It really dives deep into like really interesting like concepts and stuff that I find very intriguing. So I would certainly check it out if you're into that type of thing.
Because yeah, most of the like places they travel to, even when it's like aliens or a different time period, a lot of times like the things going on are usually kind of relevant to another historical event. They just use like of course metaphors because it's more interesting that way.
Absolutely. All right, guys, and with that out of the way, we will go from one sci-fi. Well, I can't really call Star Wars sci-fi. Stuart, would you call Star Wars sci-fi, or is that more it's like what is that? Fantasy?
Sci-fi, fantasy, it's literally everything, man.
Everything.
Star Wars is like Western, sci-fi, fantasy, and opera,
Oh, I kind of dig it. So from the world of Doctor Who to the world of Star Wars, we'll go ahead and dive into it. Listen, guys, one of the names that I've been saying over the past few months, ever since the Loki series wind up dropping, one of the names that I talked about that I think people should start really recognizing is the name of Michael Waldron, who was not only the lead writer for the Loki series, he also helped write the Doctor Strange 2 movie as well in the Multiverse of Madness, and he has now also been attached for Kevin Feige's Star Wars movie to be the writer as well. And considering the momentum that certainly is behind Doctor Strange 2 as of right now, making money in the box office, winning its second weekend, if you will, Michael Waldron's name certainly continues to be brought up on occasion and certainly talked about. And this past week, speaking with Variety, Michael Waldron gave us a little bit of an update in regards to him writing the Star Wars movie for good old Kevin Feige. So, Stuart, I wanted to go ahead and get into our Star Wars bag here a little bit. And based off of just the momentum and the level of writing that we've seen from Michael Waldron so far, I thought it would be interesting to kind of discuss the idea of him tackling a Star Wars movie and certainly what we thought about it. So let's go ahead and dive into this article. While this quote comes from Variety.com, the article itself is from a great Star Wars website, StarWarsNewsNet.com. Definitely go ahead and check it out. But it says Michael Waldron has begun work on the Kevin Feige produced Star Wars movie. So it definitely seems as though it is definitely happening, Stuart. But let's dive a little bit deeper. It says, talking to Variety after the aforementioned Doctor Strange sequel, Michael Waldron notes that he is now setting his mind within the galaxy far, far away as he fully devotes his attention to his Star Wars script, which apparently will not have significant tie-ins to existing projects. This is what he says. He says, we're finally into it in earnest, is the first thing he says. We're finally into it in earnest. I mean, I'm writing away. It's a lot of fun. I'm enjoying having the freedom on that to do something that's not necessarily a sequel or anything. It maybe has a little bit less of a, it doesn't have a bunch of TV shows and movies that you're servicing on top of it, the way that I did with Doctor Strange. So it's nice. It feels like a different exercise. And it does say that Michael Waldron is referring to how at least Doctor Strange features a number of allusions and tie-ins to several existing MCU projects that touch upon existing characters and explore the Marvel multiverse, including WandaVision, Loki, What If, No Way Home, plus a number of other properties as well. So with that in mind, maybe don't expect a dozen of cameos of popular characters from Star Wars in whatever movie he ends up doing, is what Star Wars Newsnet is certainly implying. But Stuart, I'm gonna throw this over to you first, man. You hear this from Michael Waldron. We're finally into it in earnest. He's writing away. He's enjoying the freedom on being able to do something that's not necessarily a sequel or anything, or not necessarily worried about tie-ins. What are your thoughts in regards to what Michael Waldron's saying here?
My thoughts are that the possibilities are endless because Star Wars is a massive galaxy, and I feel like a lot of fans have really kind of been wanting for a while, like more standalone stories that don't necessarily have to tie into a main event, just because it'd be more fun to explore that, you know, universe of Star Wars, like through that kind of a lens. We kind of got it with that. I don't know if you've checked out the anime Star Wars series.
Visions?
Yeah, Visions.
Yeah.
You know, we kind of got it with that. So it would be cool if we could get like, and this might be why they have Kevin Feige producing it instead of what's her name, Kathleen Kennedy, because it might be just like an experiment from Disney to see if standalone Star Wars movies that don't have any like direct tie-ins to anything can still be profitable. So I really hope it not only do I really hope this works as a movie, but I hope it ends up doing well, because then it would be cool to see like more just you know, Star Wars movies that don't feel the need to tie into anything significant that happens within the Skywalker saga. It'd be really cool to see more things like The Mandalorian, for example, but like on the scale of a movie instead of a TV show.
Yeah, I totally get what totally get what you're saying there. For me, I do think Kathleen Kennedy will certainly be involved for sure. I mean, I don't think any Star Wars movie will certainly be made without her knowledge or without any idea as to what's going on. So I do expect Kathleen Kennedy to certainly be an executive producer to the Kevin Feige thing, along with him being an executive producer for this movie also. So I do think that there's certainly connections and conversations happening between those two when this movie gets made. You know, when I think of original movies or movies that aren't attached to anything, I am curious as to what Taika Waititi's movie certainly might end up being. You know, we still have maybe Patty Jenkins' Rogue Squadron that felt like that was pretty unique in and of itself, of being a standalone sort of thing. So the idea of this being something that's fresh and new, I'm a big fan. I do love your comparisons to that of Star Wars Visions, because getting an opportunity to watch Star Wars Visions was like a breath of fresh air. Getting the opportunity to see brand new characters, brand new stories. I mean, we are literally taking stories from a galaxy far, far away, and yet somehow Star Wars has managed to really focus on just like one family, one aspect, one main story. So to be able to see some of these other upcoming movies and projects maybe be something very standalone-ish. I'm kind of really on board with it. I do think Kevin Feige producing a Star Wars movie, I do wonder if his movie will have more impact than, I don't want to say than any of the other ones, but I do hope that while it probably will be a very original story, I do hope that it at least expands to more movies that can be made off of it. I think when you've got somebody like Michael Waldron, just seeing the way that he's handled some of the storylines for like a Loki, how they've definitely have handled the craziness of a multiversal world when it comes to Doctor Strange, to be able to see that sort of level of writing, it feels like he would be a perfect fit for Star Wars. Not only to capture some really interesting concepts and ideas for what a new and original Star Wars movie could be like, but also really balancing it out, I think, with great dialogue and great humor and smart dialogue and very, really well thought out sort of levels of storytelling, right? Like, I don't think Michael Waldron's the type of person to leave a storyline thread hanging unless he got a purpose for it, right? It feels like he definitely knows how to how to write the story that he certainly wants to tell. I mean, this guy comes from what, the Rick and Morty side of things, if I'm not mistaken, also. So I think his mind is just almost wired to tackle a Star Wars movie in that sense of being able to provide us with great action, great humor, but also a really unique story set in this particular universe. And I would be kind of curious to see what time period within this Star Wars canon it certainly takes place. I mean, we still got 30 years in between The Force Awakens and Return of the Jedi that have yet to fully be explored. Who knows? Maybe we can push the boundaries to past the sequel trilogy. And maybe this takes place after the adventures of Rey and everybody else also. I'm not quite sure where it places it at, but leave it up to Michael Waldron. I think this is going to be pretty satisfying, Stuart. I personally think, just with his levels of writing that I've been able to see so far.
Yeah, definitely. Again, kind of hoping that it doesn't tie too much into any of the movies, kind of like what they're saying here. Definitely really hoping that, he can tell an entertaining standalone story. But we'll see what it's like when it comes out for sure.
Have you enjoyed his stuff that he's done so far?
Oh yeah,
From Loki?
yeah, like I love Loki, and of course I'm a huge Rick and Morty fan, and then I really, really enjoyed Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness.
Do you think so the we got right now we've got Star Wars Celebration that is set to go ahead and drop next week, if I'm not mistaken. Is that next week, or I think it's like next Friday? I think is maybe I'm wrong. Let me go ahead and pull that up. Let me pull up my
I was gonna
calendar
say
real
I didn't
quick.
know it was that close.
It might be, if it's not next week, it might be the week after. Yeah, it might be the week after. We still might be like 2 weeks away.
Okay.
Um Yeah, I think Celebration begins on the 26th. Obi-Wan Kenobi drops onto 27th, I believe. And yeah, I think if anything, we'll probably get ourselves some pretty big announcements. Do you think that this movie, the three movies, will in fact be announced, or we'll get more information in regards to the Patty Jenkins Rogue Squadron, this Kevin Feige movie, and Taika Waititi? Do you think there's a chance that we get any more details about those movies?
I definitely think there's a chance. I feel like if any one of them are going to have like any real details, though, I think it's going to be the Patty Jenkins one, because I know that was one where that was one where I think they had like a good idea of what the story was going to be, but it sounds like with these other two movies, they're still in the process of like writing the scripts and still trying to figure it all out. So I feel like we may get like ideas of time periods, but that might be it. I don't know how much they're going to say about the movies, if
Yeah, I don't know
anything.
if we're gonna. Yeah, I don't know if we're gonna get huge announcements or anything like that. But I wouldn't mind a little bit of an insight, maybe a brief synopsis. I don't know how far along in development any of these movies certainly are, so I don't know if there's any concept art or anything like that. But it would be a good idea to, at least for me. I know we already have a ton of stuff when it comes to Star Wars TV to certainly get hyped about. And while I've certainly enjoyed majority of the stuff that we've gotten in Star Wars wise, I still feel some type of way about Boba Fett. I feel like it certainly could have been executed a little bit better. There is a part of me that's ready for another Star Wars movie, or at least seeing the movie on the big screen. But I feel like anytime I make that wish when it comes to Lucasfilm, that's like a 50-50 chance. You never know if you're really going to get that movie or not. So any sort of concrete announcement or anything at Celebration, I think as a Star Wars fan, for me at least, will definitely get me hyped to kind of see what gets released theatrically. So hopefully we get some live action movie announcements at Celebration. But I'm really looking forward to this. I think Michael Waldron will fit perfectly in the world of Star Wars. But I want to know your guys' thoughts. You've seen what he's been able to create in Loki, along with Doctor Strange 2 in the Multiverse of Madness. Do you think him and Kevin Feige are a perfect fit to go ahead and put together a great Star Wars movie? Let us know your thoughts in the live chat or the comment section box below. And yeah, I think after watching Doctor Strange 2 yesterday for myself, I'm really pumped to see what Michael Waldron brings. So keep an eye out on his career, certainly going forward.
What's funny is that even with Doctor Strange being like a movie where you have an entire multiverse to play with, I feel like the universe of Star Wars is just so big when you think about it that it's like you can do even more with that than you could with a multiverse movie if you're like creative enough, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And like for me, I mean, the fact that a lot of his writing sort of has been guided by what's already been set before, and him having to be smart enough and creative enough to put those pieces together, the idea of giving this man an original concept and something that he can just play with, that sounds really fun to me. And I think he'll probably really tap into something fantastic.
Yeah. If you were given like a Star Wars movie, would you want like full creative freedom, like you can choose to write it in any time period you want with any characters you want, or would you want like some sort of guidelines, like to like for them to tell you what time period that you're going to write it in, and then what characters you're going to use to write it?
I wouldn't mind if they gave me a time period to write it in, but that would be pretty much it. You give me a time period, that's fine, and then I'll work around with it. And it's one of those things where because Marvel definitely does this, you know, like people say, oh, you know, Marvel allows people to be creative and have creative control, and I'm sure they certainly do. They do allow them to put their fingerprints on it. But trust me when I say Marvel Studios definitely has bullet points and things like in each movie you have to make sure that you hit. I'm kind of okay with that. Or even if it's not bullet points of things I have to hit, just tell me what characters I can and can't use if I choose to. You know what I mean? Outside of that, just let me have some free reign. But I think a good starting point of just let me know what timeline it's in would work for me. What about you though?
God, I'm kind of mixed because I feel like if I had full creative freedom, I would do stuff that like some Star Wars fans may not be the biggest fan of. So I think for my sake, it would probably be better for the fan base if they gave me some specific guidelines. But you know,
no time travel, Stuart. No time travel.
I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do time travel in Star Wars. But you know, I would definitely retell like one of my favorite video games, Dark Forces. But I would do it with definitely like my own kind of my own flavor to it in order to make sure it works with the Disney continuity and not with the original Star Wars Legends continuity.
Gotcha.
And I feel like maybe some of the creative changes I'd make would piss other people off. It's hard to say. So I feel like if I had guidelines, I could prevent that. But if I didn't, I would just make the Star Wars movies of my dream and have a lot of fun with that.
I would check it out, Stuart. I would definitely check it out. Real quick shout out to Christopher Robbins says, I just realized I've been watching Adam for a decade. Yeah, man. 2000. This actually marks 10 years for me on YouTube. It's been a crazy ride. So thank you very much, Christopher Throbbin, for certainly being a part of it the entirety of the way.
That's right, because you like started the channel around the time Megaforce started, right?
Yeah, I think one of my first rants was on Megaforce. I can't even remember what it was, if it was about the legendary battle or what, but I do remember that sparked my interest in making some YouTube videos. So yeah.
Yeah, because like a lot of times with YouTubers I watch, if it's a YouTuber that's been around for a while, that's like one of the things I'll do is I'll look at their videos, but like from order of when they first started, because I like seeing how YouTube creators kind of evolve over time, you know.
Oh, absolutely. And I feel like there's a lot more that we can certainly do. I do think losing the channel for A Plus Opinions a couple of years ago definitely stunted our growth a little bit. But now that we have a little bit more of a refocus here on Hero Report, I definitely do think big things are certainly headed our way. So maybe it's another decade of fantastic content creation. We'll definitely see how that goes. Marcelino does mention, he says, well, time travel already exists in Star Wars. I'm curious if he's referring to the Star Wars Rebels episode. I've seen Ezra kind of go through. I can't remember the realm or the spatial. I can't remember the area in which he travels through, but he does get an opportunity to glimpse and open doorways if he needs to go to another time period or something like that, doesn't he?
Yeah, it was a weird thing that they added, and you could tell they were kind of nervous about it. Like when
Yeah.
you're watching the episode, they were treading very lightly, which was smart on them. You know, for me, I would just personally, I would avoid it altogether if I was doing Star Wars. But that's not saying that time travel can't work in Star Wars. It's just that I don't have the skills to make it work in Star Wars. I mean, I know my strengths and weaknesses as a writer.
That might be Michael Waldron's strength, man. Maybe he finally is the one to go ahead and introduce it.
If he can do it without pissing off the fan base, man, go for it.
and Kevin Feige we trust, though. And Kevin Feige we trust, so we'll see. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and move on to our next topic for you guys today as we start diving into some Marvel and DC talk for you guys. Listen, we just got the opportunity to wrap up Moon Knight last week with the finale, a fantastic series. Disney Plus, when it comes to the MCU series, I think have really been impressing a lot of fans, honestly. And Moon Knight certainly was no exception. Kudos to Ethan Hawke along with Oscar Isaac for some amazing performances. Jeremy Slater, the head writer of Moon Knight, also really knocking it out of the park. I was personally a really big fan of it. So while we have said farewell to the Moon Knight series, it is time to certainly welcome in a brand new series, and that is, in fact, Miss Marvel, ladies and gentlemen, as Miss Marvel is set to go ahead and debut this upcoming June. So we're not that far away whatsoever. And the marketing push for it has officially begun, as that will, in fact, be our next MCU Disney series plus or Disney Plus series dropping for you guys here. And this past week, Entertainment Weekly has been dropping some news articles along with some brand new photos for us to certainly enjoy. So definitely expect to see a lot more Miss Marvel headed your way within the next coming weeks. But Entertainment Weekly did have the opportunity to sit down with one of the co-creators of the Miss Marvel character and Kamala Khan to talk about the idea of adapting her from the comic book to the television screen. And I always thought this was a really interesting interview to really give us a better understanding of not only the character, but the processes of trying to bring this character to life. And we'll also go ahead and show you some of the brand new photos that have in fact been released. So this comes to us from Entertainment Weekly as they open up a little bit more in regards to what's going on. It says this is the co-creator Sana Amanat. And I pronounced her last name incorrectly, I do apologize, but Sana Amanat. For Amanat, who serves as the producer of the series, she's thrilled to be able to introduce Kamala's story to an even larger audience. She says, the great part for me is the collaboration, is what Amanat tells EW of working on the show. I love that so many people now are in Kamala's life. They're helping her grow, whether it's our directors, our writers, our VFX team, our costume designers, our set director or decorator. Everybody has now influenced Kamala. What's really wonderful is that she's truly going into the next stage of growth because of all these amazing people who are bringing their own perspectives. It does say Miss Marvel is set to go ahead and debut June 8th, guys. So June 8th. They do ask her, as a co-creator of this character, you've been with Kamala since the beginning. What is it about? What was it that excited you most about bringing her into live action? She says, I mean, obviously adapting the comic into something that feels familiar to the comic and also sync to the into the MCU was a really fun challenge. Obviously, this is a show and this character means the world to me. I know how incredibly important it is for people to have this out there, especially for young Muslims and young Pakistanis and Indians and people of color and young women. It just affects so many different communities, and that's what's really exciting for me. Just knowing how important this show is and hoping that we get it right. It does say that based on the trailer, the show seems like a fun mix of superhero adventure and a coming of age story. How did you approach the tone of the series? And she says the comic was very much a guiding light for us. We needed to make sure that it worked in the MCU, of course, but we wanted to make sure that we had that quirkiness and the stylistic distinction that the comics did so well. We wanted to find our own MCU version of it. So we're doing things in this show that we don't really do anywhere else in the MCU. It's kind of told through the lens of Kamala's experience and her wild imagination. I think the brightness and the colors and where we're going in the Marvel universe and in Kamala's universe is really what makes it stand out tonally and stylistically from everything else. And then obviously it's a coming of age story, but it's a coming of age story through the lens of a young brown woman. I think that in itself is going to make it stand apart. Her world is naturally colorful. She grows up in a colorful environment, not only because of the community that she's from, but also the city that she's from. Jersey City is a pretty crazy and vibrant and multicultural place, and we really wanted to showcase that also. And we'll go through a little bit more here of the interview, but Stuart, just based off of what she's saying, what are your thoughts in regards to it? For me, what's really jumping out is especially talking about the approach, the quirkiness, the style, the stylistic distinction, and things like that. How do you like the idea of what she's mentioning here?
I love it, and you can definitely see it like in the trailers. I also love the idea of kind of making it a coming of age story as well as a superhero movie. Given like a lot of like my favorite superheroes growing up as a kid definitely had that kind of a thing going for it. Like the idea of like kind of like Danny Phantom and Static Shock. We're watching these characters grow up into adults, but we're seeing them also fight crime on the side, and that's what that's the vibe I kind of get with this. But like on a much bigger scale, of course, because it's not just an animated series. We're now seeing this in live action, and then and I also love how they talk about the representation, how it's like now it's more important for it's important that other people get to see themselves on the big screen, and I think that's amazing that they know that going into this.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there, man. If anything, definitely the trailer itself certainly showcases how distinctive it'll certainly be. And if anything, I feel like a lot of the creators of these MCU series are saying the same thing in the sense that we're really tapping into a side of the MCU that we haven't before. We're trying to provide a new flair and a new taste tonally to something that maybe the MCU hasn't experienced before. And I think that just continues to show the growth of the MCU in general, that a lot of these MCU shows really do have a distinct feeling in and of itself, whether that be embracing a completely different genre or just a different way of storytelling. And I do think that that's certainly what continues to make Marvel series and movies so distinctive and unique, and people continue to come back for more. Because while I do think that there is a Marvel formula included in these series, things that you certainly have to do, being able to see these shows through the lens of different perspectives and how these creators want to represent not only their cultures but changing things up tonally, I think it's been a really great addition for the MCU. I mean, even just walking away from Moon Knight itself felt really unique upon anything else that we've ever kind of seen. And for me, it really continues to make the MCU feel a little bit fresh. So the fact that I have the ability of going from something like a Moon Knight to say Miss Marvel that does have that unique flair that we've seen from the trailers. I think the idea of it being unique and giving us something different, I think people are going to be really on board with this, man. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, for sure. And also kind of love too, which we kind of got this in Spider-Man a little bit, but now I feel like they're going to be doing a lot more of it in this, is that we get to kind of see the MCU in the eyes of a fan of like superheroes. And I think that's going to be kind of cool too, especially with her being so young. So like her being like definitely like kind of a total fangirl nerd, like when it comes to that kind of stuff. And then suddenly being given that opportunity. I love it. And I love how we also see in the trailer that, she has to learn the hard way. It seems like that with great power comes great responsibility. So, I look forward to seeing that, causing her to grow as a character, that kind of stuff. It looks like it's going to be
Absolutely.
great.
Absolutely. There's two more sections of this interview I do want to go ahead and highlight. And if you guys want to check out the full interview for yourself, please go ahead and do so over on Entertainment Weekly. But it says, what was it about Aman Vellani that made her the right person to play Kamala? And she says, I think once people meet Aman and get to know her and watch her in the show, everyone's going to be like, oh, no question, she's Kamala. It's no doubt. She is funny and sweet and vulnerable and nerdy and a huge fan of Marvel in real life. She's incredibly smart, like whip smart, and she has such a bright future ahead. I feel like Aman is going to do so much after this show. Sure, she can get an Oscar, but she's probably going to be a director or a producer. She's going to do so much because she's so smart. There's so much of Kamala in her because I think Kamala has the same type of view of the world. She looks at the world with eager and hopeful eyes, and I think Aman does that too. I can't help but root for her and be drawn to her. There are just so many similarities that it felt like such a natural fit to see her put the costume for the first time or see her go into the con house for the first time. It just made sense. There's no other Kamala than Aman Vellani. And you know what's kind of crazy, Stuart? I feel like when they first announced her and we started getting a glimpse of what this series might be, one of the things that I mentioned was I think we should really look out for her. I really do think that she's going to really take the MCU by storm here. I think we got a glimpse of that a little bit in just the trailers alone, and being able to learn a little bit more about Aman Vellani. It definitely feels like she fits this Kamala Khan character incredibly well. Like I do believe certainly in her acting ability, just despite everything that everybody has certainly been talking about in regards to her, even though I don't think she's been in too much, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if you can look that up and see what she's been in, or if this might even be her very first thing that she's been into. But the fact that you got the co-creators saying that not only is she going to be great as Kamala, but the potential of thinking she's even capable of getting an Oscar somewhere down the line just shows you the potential of what her career certainly might look like. And we've even seen these big stars like Brie Larson and others, Olivia Wilde, right, branching off into Charlize Theron, branching off into directing and producing certainly their own movies. So for somebody to view Aman Vellani in that stage, or be able to see that for her at such a young age, for me, that's really promising in regards to what she's going to bring to the main character, if you ask me.
The main thing that gets me excited, and why I know that they definitely see a lot of potential in her, is because this is her first big role on the big screen. Like, she's probably done like Broadway
Like
stuff
short
before
films.
this. But like, yeah, if you look on her IMDb, Miss Marvel is the first thing that she's acted in. The only other thing on her resume is the Marvels movie, where it's just going to be kind of a sequel to this from what it looks like. But yeah, like I love more than anything how when she was answering this question about how she's going to do as an actress, she's like, oh yeah, she'll probably win an Oscar down the line, whatever.
Just casually, right?
But she's eventually going to be a great director and producer. Like, I love how like she seems so impressed by like her talent, not just as an actor, but just like, personality wise, like of her intelligence, that like the whole like winning an Oscar just doesn't seem like a big deal. Like, oh yeah, that's inevitably going to happen. Who cares?
Yeah, that's crazy. I think that definitely showcases the belief in her talent for sure.
Yeah.
And it certainly must have impressed upon seeing her. So, and then last but not least, it says, from what we've seen in the trailer, Kamala's power looked a little different than they did in the comics. How do you want to approach translating her powers to the screen? And I wanted to highlight this story because I do feel like some people that are big fans of the Kamala Khan character have certainly felt maybe some type of way about taking the liberties to change her powers on screen. But this is what the co-creator says. She says, obviously so much of the show is an adaptation, and we thought it was important to make sure that her powers are linking to larger stories in the MCU. We wanted to make sure that there's a little bit of story to tell after this series. Obviously, she goes into the Marvels. The powers do look different, which is very controversial. I know people are like, how dare you change the powers? I know people are upset about it, but as someone who's probably one of the closest people to this character from the inception, and having spoken to Willow about this as well, I think Willow and I have always felt that this made sense. This was the right move because there are bigger stories to tell. It was really fun to give Kamala different kinds of powers and to feel big in scope and cinematic in a different way. We can do a lot of fun things with her. I don't want to spoil too much about how she uses her powers, but they're fun and bouncy. At the same time, the essence of what the powers are in the comics is there, both from a metaphorical standpoint and from a visual standpoint. We're doing the embiggened fist. We're doing the elements that make her feel and look kind of crazy, but are also really cool. I think it's going to be familiar to people, but at the same time, different in a fresh and unique way. So to me, Stuart, this doesn't feel like they're completely abandoning the power set of Kamala Khan so much as they're taking what she already has and maybe blending it even further into something new to really kind of work overall in the MCU. And I love the fact that she references, that there are bigger stories to tell. And in the process of making Kamala Khan maybe a part of that big story that they're certainly trying to tell, maybe the idea of switching up her powers, how she acquired them, if she is going to be in a show or a movie like the Marvels, there probably needs to be a little bit of a additional connection there. So it feels like they're definitely taking liberties to make sure she fits into the overall MCU, but still at the same time kind of staying a little bit true to the character. And I think you can kind of see glimpses of that in the trailer. I think we do see the big in fist. I do think that there's a shot where she jumps across like a building or something like that, and you can kind of see her elongating a little bit. So I do think there's a little bit of a mixture here, but I do think visually it'll probably work out relatively well. And I think once we see her role in the bigger scope of what the MCU is putting together, I think we might be able to accept that just a little bit more. But what do you think, Stuart? Do you think do you feel some type of way about the idea of them switching their powers, or does this make sense to you?
Personally, I think it works really well, and like they said, they kind of wanted to give it like a more MCU feel, and it makes sense that this is the direction they would take with her powers. And plus, there's the other thing of like, Reed Richards is going to be coming to the MCU pretty soon, so I feel like it could also be that they don't want to have too many characters with similar powers. But here's the other thing too, and this is why people need to, at least wait until the show is done airing before, really getting in there on their all their complaints and that kind of stuff. I still think that we're gonna eventually get her to have those that power set. The thing is it might not be until the very end of this series or the very end of the Marvel's movie. But regardless, I do think the actual power set from the comic books are coming eventually. But even if they don't, I'm honestly cool with them going with this direction with her powers.
Yeah, it definitely works for me too, man. I definitely don't mind it. I will be interested to kind of see how they play around with it a little bit, especially with, like you said, Reed Richards. That's certainly being one of his key powers. I guess maybe if anything, they don't want to step on his toes a little bit too much, but definitely have some fun with it. And I think they'll certainly be fine. But yeah, guys, go ahead and let us know your thoughts. What's your excitement level for Miss Marvel? I feel like everything that I've seen from the promotion, artwork, posters, trailers, it certainly looks fun and quirky in its own sense. A great coming of age story, bright as well. And it looks like it's going to be pretty solid. So the MCU certainly hasn't let me down when it comes to series as of yet. I mean, some people could say maybe Hawkeye, but I don't know if anybody went into Hawkeye expecting a big bombastic MCU series. I always felt Hawkeye was exactly what Hawkeye needed to certainly be. So while that's not necessarily my favorite, I still think that the MCU probably has more good things going for it, Disney Plus series wise, than not. What do you think, though?
Yeah, definitely. Even Hawkeye, not I wasn't the biggest fan of it, but I also didn't think it was a bad show overall. I got exactly what I expected from it, like you said.
Yeah, I think so also. But June 8th, guys, it's going to be right around the corner before we know it. Kamala Khan will certainly be here. Let us know your levels of thoughts in regards to this article and interview, in regards to what the co-creator said. Let us know your thoughts in the live chat or the comment section box below. And Stuart, we got one last topic, man. One last topic as we're going to turn our eyes to DC television as the shift continues. The merger continues to shake up everything that's certainly happening when it comes to DC television, DC movies. And it looks as though the hammer has officially dropped on the CW in regards to a ton of cancellations, along with a few new series pickups that are certainly headed our way. So we wanted to go ahead and highlight both the good and the bad of what's certainly happening when it comes to the CW, ladies and gentlemen. So let's go ahead and start off. Should we start off with the good news or the bad news? Maybe we should just do the bad news, shall we?
Yeah,
Do the
let's
bad.
rip that Band-Aid
Let's
off.
rip that Band-Aid off, ladies and gentlemen. Listen, we've been patiently waiting to see the renewals for some shows. We definitely have gotten the renewals for some of our Arrowverse shows, but one of the last series that we have been waiting to hear back from was, in fact, the Ava DuVernay produced Naomi show. We have, in fact, been reviewing it here at A Plus Hero Report for you guys, and Naomi, I believe, just had its season finale this past week, which I haven't had the opportunity to watch, unfortunately, as of yet. But despite Naomi completing its season 1, the news did drop this week that unfortunately Naomi is canceled after its first season, which I believe the season 1 probably left on a bit of a cliffhanger as well, which is a little bit bummer for those that certainly did watch the show. But let's go ahead and dive into this and see if we can figure out what's going on, Stuart. The bad news, because trust me, unfortunately, it's not just Naomi that wind up getting canceled, but we certainly will talk about that first here. But this comes to us from Deadline. Naomi not returning to the CW for season 2. This is an exclusive, saying that the Ava DuVernay superhero genre Naomi will not be back for a second season. Just 2 days after the Casey Wallfall-led DC series wrapped up its often preempted first season, it says with a DuVernay and Jill Blankenship penned 2-hour finale. I had no idea it was even 2 hours. The For Sale CW pulled the plug Thursday. With that, we hear that the Array Filmworks and Warner Brothers produced show is talking to other outlets about continuing Naomi's tale on streaming or higher up the dial. Let's see here. It does say, while garnering a lot of critical acclaim, including from Deadline, Naomi was in a constant battle to find an audience, especially online. The show suffered several preemptions since its January 11th debut, including for the Beijing Olympics and for consecutive weeks in early March. It also has to be noted, because this is Hollywood, the proposal sale of the CW had to play a role in the lack of a Naomi renewal. Additionally, Naomi is the third DC series to be cut by the Arrowverse in recent weeks, following Batwoman and Legends of Tomorrow. So, yeah, man, it is officially gone for good. Even though they do say that they are going to try and attempt to see if they can sell it to somebody else, or see if somebody else wants to go ahead and pick it up. You know, so anytime I feel like they mention that, I just don't get my hopes up. You know, if they're telling me your show is canceled, I'm just going to believe that it's canceled. I'm not going to be the one to keep my hopes up too high that somebody's certainly going to go ahead and pick up this series. If they do, I definitely would be surprised. I think this is probably certainly going to be the end of it. But Naomi is officially canceled. And listen, for somebody like myself that definitely covered it, if I could be honest with you, it is a series that I certainly enjoyed. Underwhelming maybe to a certain extent, but again, I haven't watched the last 2 episodes of this series, so I'm not exactly sure how it finished itself off. But I loved Casey Wallfall as Naomi in here. I thought they had some really great supporting characters also, whether that be the parents, whether that be her classmates. I thought they added a really great element to the series itself. I thought the mystery and the unraveling of it went really well. Maybe a little bit too slow of a burn. I think people maybe had different expectations of what this series was going to be going into it. You know, I'm thinking back of the marketing for this series, Stuart. One of the things that I had said back then was, you know, I was really unsure about the series. I don't think the trailers or the marketing did this show any favors to let people know what they were certainly getting into. So as a viewer, when you come into Naomi and you see that a lot of this show doesn't really do a lot of superheroing, doesn't really have a big special effects budget, it is really story and character driven. For some people, that certainly might work, like myself, but it always felt like it was lacking a little bit of something to really kind of push it over the top. And so I don't know if that's just the direction they wanted to go storyline wise, and they thought, hey, season 2, will really up the ante. But it did feel like, for me, the second half of the series really picked up the momentum a little bit, but it almost felt like a little bit maybe too late. So I get what the article is talking about in regards that it really struggled to kind of find its audience, especially when you have that type of storytelling and then you mix in little bits of hiatuses throughout the season. I feel like that's been really detrimental to the CW as of late. It really butchered momentum, I think, for Superman and Lois, despite those being really, really great seasons also. So the scheduling certainly did not do any favors to Naomi. So look, I'm gonna be honest. This does not surprise me, man. This does not surprise me. It sucks that it's an Ava DuVernay project. This is the second one that she's done for DC that hasn't really gotten off the ground. New Gods that she was working on movie wise, but we know how things backstage at Warner Brothers certainly was at the time, and now this one. So I don't know if we'll see Ava DuVernay touch anything DC related again or for quite some time. But sad day for Naomi fans. But understandable, I think, Stuart. But what about you, man?
Yeah, I mean, hey, I'm definitely not surprised by this news. But it also makes me like less interested, unfortunately, into like actually binging the series when it comes out. I definitely need you to let me know after you watch the season finale. I just need to know whether or not it wraps everything up or if it ends on a big cliffhanger to set up season 2, because for me, when I binge a show, I'm just less likely to actually want to watch it all the way through if I know it's going to end in a very unsatisfying kind of way. So, that's kind of like the big unfortunate thing about it not coming back for season 2, is that I feel like a lot of people who wanted to wait till the whole series got out on HBO Max are now probably not even going to check it out, because, why would you want to get started and get invested into a show that doesn't have a proper conclusion? So that's like kind of the one like major unfortunate thing about it. But like, it was a really tough show for me to get into because I felt like it moved, like you kind of mentioned, at a very, very slow pace. And while, a lot of the character moments were pretty cool, I feel like they didn't do enough each episode to really justify the lack of progression, to my opinion anyways, which is why I was originally planning to binge it once it all came out on HBO Max. And now I'm not even 100% sure if I'm going to do that. So, I hope, for the sake of the cast and crew and all the people that work on the show, I wish them the best of luck in trying to find someone else that'll pick up season 2. But, realistically, I don't see that happening because, the type of shows that usually get picked up after cancellation, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Family Guy, Futurama, or some that come to mind, those are usually the shows with a huge, large, and dedicated fan base. And unfortunately, with Naomi, I really don't know that many people that are watching this show.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there, man. I don't know how many people are watching the show, if at all. I mean, I do believe the viewership was certainly down. Like I said, it did certainly struggle to gain its audience. So I'm like you. I'm very much in the sense of holding my breath. I'm definitely not having any expectations of this show certainly being picked up anywhere else. So I definitely do think that this is unfortunately the end of the road. But if anything, I really do hope that Casey Wallfall definitely finds other opportunities, because I do think she's a stellar actress, and I definitely would like to see her in more. But listen, that's not the only thing when it comes to cancellations at the CW that wind up happening. There are also some really big other names here too, Stuart. I'll go ahead to another Entertainment Weekly article here. It says that overall this week they canceled 7 shows. 7 shows. It says they canceled Naomi, Legacies, The 4400, Roswell, New Mexico, In the Dark, Charmed, and Dynasty. It says the superhero drama Naomi just wrapped its first series, a season earlier this week, and it did happen on a big twist that now has become a rather dark ending. It says the 4400, a reboot of the 2004 CBS sci-fi series on the same name, has also been brought to an end after a single season. Other CW reboots met their fate. Season 5 of Dynasty and season 4 of Charmed, both currently airing, will be the final seasons of these shows. Roswell, New Mexico, and In the Dark, meanwhile, haven't even started airing their final seasons yet. Both of them kick off on June 6th. And with Legacies airs its finale this summer, it will be the first time in years that the CW will be without any current shows in the Vampire Diaries universe. So yeah, man, it says now it just brings it down to just 3 DC superhero shows: The Flash, Superman and Lois, and Stargirl. And I think some of us are already under the belief that The Flash might be have its final season this might be its final season. Also, some people are under assumption. So, yeah, man, the CW is just axing things. Are there any other shows that you watched? Did you watch any of these other shows, Stuart?
No, pretty much on the CW. I've only really been keeping up with the Arrowverse. Although I do need to eventually check out Kung Fu because that show looks pretty cool.
Yeah, I've heard some good things about it. And I believe Ludi Lin from Power Rangers is in Kung Fu, if I'm not mistaken. So definitely worth checking out to see his cameo. So while the CW has definitely canceled a number of shows, there is some light at the end of the tunnel, if you will. It's the whole death and rebirth sort of scenario, I feel like, Stuart, to a certain capacity. So while there are 7 shows we're saying farewell to, the CW has officially picked up 3 new shows, Stuart. Let's go ahead and dive into that to see exactly what we're getting. And a couple of these shows I'm actually kind of looking forward to. Supernatural, the spinoff, I believe, The Winchesters. We also have the Walker prequels. And then, of course, Gotham Knights that we've been talking about over the past couple of weeks lands CW series orders. And good old Kate McNamara certainly coming back on the CW in some capacity. Not for Arrow, but definitely for Walker Independence. It says the CW ordered only 3 pilots in this developmental cycle, but all 3 of them are going to series. The broadcast network has ordered Gotham Knights, Walker Independence, and the Winchester for the 2022 and 23 season. Gotham Knights is a DC Comics series centered on the offspring of Bruce Wayne and several of the city's notorious villains. Independence is a Walker prequel set in the late 1800s, and the Winchesters is a supernatural prequel centered on John and Mary, the parents of the original series main characters. The series orders come as the CW is in a transition phase. Its current parent company, Warner Brothers, are looking to sell the network, with local TV giant Nexstar seen as a leading contender. With the potential sale looming, the network has thus far renewed fewer veteran series ahead of next week's upfronts and made fewer pilots than usual. The CW has also canceled the series and some other veteran shows that were on the bubble a week ahead of their presentation to advertisers. That's out of step with recent years at the network, which, aside from pre-announced endings, only 4 scripted series got the boot for the upcoming season. So it just definitely feels like a sense, Stuart, of scrubbing the CW of old content. They talk about the idea of a lot of veteran series being canceled and bringing in a new series, kind of fresh blood, if you will, a little bit. And they're talking about the idea of also having to put something together for presenters a presentation to advertisers, if anything. And it just kind of makes me feel like they're trying to do their best to make the CW look more appealing. Maybe the idea of taking shows that they've had for such a long time that are no longer doing well and bolstering that with new, fresh content that might wind up drawing in new and fresh eyes to maybe make the CW feel more appealing. Do you feel like that's the kind of direction that they're going in here? And what are your thoughts on these 3 series in particular that have been picked up? Are you looking forward to any of them?
Kind of intrigued by Gotham Knights. Don't know how much I'm looking forward to it, but I'll definitely be checking out the pilot for sure. But yeah, no, I think you might be onto something there because I think they're really trying to kind of like reorganize everything. It's like when you have a desk that's just been cluttered up for so long and you haven't taken the time to reorganize it to make it look nice, maybe replace some of your old stuff with some new stuff to make it look like it's something more presentable, that kind of a thing. It was the only analogy I could think of because my desk looks really filthy right now. But regardless, I totally kind of get that. I get when you're about to sell something, I get why you would want to make the certain decisions that they're making now. And the biggest reason I think that the Flash and Superman are like the 2 DC shows that are the only ones that got like their early renewals, I think it's just because even though the shows may not be getting like the best ratings in the world, they still star like very, very well-known superheroes. So I feel like name-wise, that's what you kind of got going for it, more than like the viewership. It's all about kind of the name branding of it. Like, hey, if you get the CW, you get Superman and the Flash.
Yeah, no, I definitely get what you're saying there for sure. It definitely is a great promotional tool for sure. Good old Diego, what's up, Diego? Appreciate you coming through. He says if Discovery really wanted all the DC shows gone, they wouldn't be making Gotham Knights. That just shows the WB still wants DC shows to continue. They just want more profitable ones. And yeah, I don't think anybody's saying that they want all their DC CW shows gone. I don't know if anybody's saying that in particular. If anything, the new CEO. David Zaslav, I believe his name is, did mention the idea that he believes the key to expanding Warner Media and really it being profitable is this library of DC characters. So I do think that they certainly do have a mindset of utilizing these characters in some way, and I do think they at least understand the value that those characters certainly bring. So while I don't think that they're trying to um, remove all the DC shows whatsoever, I think you look at the sense that a lot of these shows have been around for a while and they're just no longer profitable, like you said. So you do want to put brand new things out there that you feel will certainly go ahead and bring in a profit. So I definitely get what you're saying there, Diego, but I don't think they're trying to get rid of all DC television shows.
Yeah, and I think when it comes to Discovery, like they're definitely canceling a lot of scripted shows, and I feel really bad for all the writers that are losing their jobs currently.
Absolutely.
But I don't think they care too much about the CW because they don't like own the CW, like you
Right.
know we're kind of mentioning. I think as like for now, because it's not losing them any money, they're just going to let the CW continue to do their thing for a while, and then you know as those shows get canceled, and if the CW were to ask, hey, can we use other DC characters? That's when they're going to probably be like, no, probably not. They're just going to kind of let the CW, you know, run its course essentially. That's what I think is going to happen.
Definitely a possibility. But I get the idea of canceling so much, renewing some new things. Definitely want to go ahead and try and make it very appealing because I do feel as though they probably, I wouldn't surprise me if Warner Brothers does start transitioning more of their important shows that they really want to succeed more to streaming on HBO Max than maybe giving out properties for something like a CW. Not to say that Gotham Knights will be the last one, but maybe, you know, they'll be a little bit more particular about what content they certainly put out there in the world. I do want to go ahead and focus on something real quick, Stuart, right? Because there is a lot of questions as to what's going on when it comes to the CW. Why are they canceling a lot of the shows? And there was an article that I thought was really well written on the Hollywood Reporter that I wanted to go ahead and bring to people's attention that might explain a little bit as to what's kind of going on. I mean, you could believe this opinion piece if you'd like to or not, but I found it rather interesting. So bear with me here, Stuart, as we break down some of this. And I would love to get your thoughts on what this article talks about. But it says, mad about the CW cancellations, blame streaming, but also its unusual corporate structure. It does say here, it says, to understand what's happening now at the CW, it's best to look back at why the network was launched in the first place. Warner Brothers and CBS Studios saw the network as a cash cow. Both studios would supply low-cost scripted series to the network and cash in with lucrative international rights. Then in 2011, Warner Brothers added revenue from a $1 billion Netflix streaming deal, as shown with the Vampire Diaries spinoff, The Originals, and the canceled Legacies, adding a secondary revenue stream. It says it didn't matter that the CW was never profitable because both studios, then part of Viacom and Time Warner, made money hand over fist via foreign sales and the Netflix output deal. And people, you know, Indy talked about this all the time. You know, people would say, "Oh, this show is not getting any viewership, right? They're going to cancel it this season." The reason why they did not cancel these shows is because one, they weren't making necessarily money from the CW, and they realized that at this point they're making money hand over fist already for these properties and based off of the deals that they've kind of made. So if you have these deals in place, the idea of canceling them unfortunately just did not make any sense, right? So they just continued to push these out. It says the business model was so lucrative that the CW expanded to original programming on Fridays and Sundays and largely stopped canceling much of anything. The CW on average canceled only 3.3 shows during the past decade, a far cry from this season's 10. In the same time frame, the CW renewed an average 10.3 shows annually, while the new show volume 3 is a bit below the norm. So why then did the CW clean house this season? The blame isn't squarely on the network CEO. It said broadcast long tenured network topper reports to a broad. Hold on. For example, while Dynasty had the distinction of being the broadcaster's lowest rated scripted series for years, revenue from the reboot's international sales and the Netflix deal kept it on air far longer than its linear numbers deserved. And I think that's for a lot of the DC television shows that we've seen over the past couple of years. So after 5 seasons of living life on the bubble, that included a wild history of casting changes, why did time run out on Dynasty and many other CW favorites? And they say blame streaming and mergers and the impending sale. So this is Warner Brothers and CBS Studios, now overseen largely by Discovery, ended the Netflix output deal in 2019 to help boost their respective streaming platforms, HBO Max and Paramount Plus. Foreign sales too have dried up. Those rights need to stay in-house as both platforms continue their global expansion in a bid to compete now with Netflix. So this feels very much like, Stuart, now that we are in the streaming wars, Warner Brothers has their own in-house studio, their own streaming service with HBO Max. Now that they've canceled their Netflix deal, they don't really have that influx of cash that they certainly used to. And a lot of these long-running shows that have been very much reliant on that cash, despite low ratings, are now getting canceled because of the fact that they no longer have these deals. So it says without those two revenue streams and amid new corporate ownership, the CW's corporate parents are in active sales talk with the station group Nexstar and other potential buyers. Some have pondered if the wave of cancellation impairs the CW's valuation because the network scripted cupboard is half empty. And then it says not really. What are you thinking so far about what you're hearing here, Stuart?
Yeah, this actually makes a lot of sense. I thought the contracts were for Netflix and the CW with a lot of their shows were still going, and so I thought the Flash and Legends of Tomorrow specifically, like I thought those two shows would have still had more seasons because of that. But now finding out that it ended in 2019, so more than likely the Flash season 9, and then and even if they made like a Legend season 8, like those probably wouldn't have gone to Netflix. It makes a lot of sense why Legends finally had to bite the dust, unfortunately, and it makes sense why a lot of people are thinking this next season of The Flash might be the last.
It also does go on to say, it says most of the originals that got the axe this season were shows that long outlived their welcome. Sorry, Dynasty, and would have been canceled at networks that weren't governed by two studios who were making money on them. Should Nexstar, the CW's largest station group owner, buy the network, it doesn't matter if shows like Dynasty make money for the studio because it doesn't rate on linear. Put another way, why would Nexstar pay a licensing fee for a show that nobody watches? The CW didn't commission 22 episodes of the season because it helped sell ads, but rather because the show's producers made millions on every episode. While the CW is expected to look considerably different next season, expect more low-cost foreign acquisitions and unscripted programming. So they're even suggesting the idea that CW will look significantly different going forward. The Netflix most watched originals are all returning. The CW gave early renewals to 7 of its 8 returning shows, all of them among its highest rated. Sources say that they wanted to bring back dramas Batwoman and Legends of Tomorrow, but Warner's no longer wanted to pay the leases on the studio space, which expired May 1st and prompted the cancellations. And they said that the legacy was also a financial decision as well.
Ooh, kind of knowing this stuff it slightly bothers me more that Legends ended the way that it did, because I feel like this last season of Legends, they already had like kind of some confirmation that this could have been their last season. Because so Canada Graphs, he's part of the After Party podcast every once in a while, and he'll every once in a while when he takes like a lot of his photos that we end up seeing online later on of that's where a lot of the CW leaks kind of come from. He was like kind of mentioning that like the cast and crew were actually not 100% sure if they were going to be coming back next year. They were being told by the producers, yeah, it wouldn't be a bad idea to start looking for other jobs. They didn't necessarily say they were canceled. They just said, looking wouldn't be a bad idea, essentially. So it is still kind of bizarre to me that they were on this much of a thin line and the showrunner still went for the cliffhanger ending. Like, I think they really should have ended Legends tomorrow an episode early, because everything felt very much wrapped up, the previous episode. And it was just, they decided to make one last cliffhanger to really set up the next season. And that ended up being what the season finale for Legend season 7, So I think that was probably not the smartest move on the showrunner's part.
Yeah, definitely put some things into perspective for sure. It does say sources say the network's robust streaming platform has been a particular interest to the CW suitors, including Nexstar. Affiliates have complained for years about the CW's increased digital presence, as companies like Nexstar do not receive revenue from those platforms. However, should Nexstar actually own the CW, that's digital money in the bank. It also doesn't hurt that the CW's foreign acquisitions and unscripted fare also have stacking rights lined up at the CW seed. In short, it's all part of Warner and CBS Studios cutting bait in an effort to make the CW more appealing to would-be buyers. And before anyone can start a petition for the unfortunate shows that met their early demise this week, keep in mind that HBO Max and Paramount can't save those lucky shows that were able to stay on the air as long as they did because they were part of the Netflix deal. So yeah, it looks like no saving of them. So, I think this
would that include Legends of Tomorrow?
Yeah, it says sorry, Legacies, Legends, Dynasty, Charmed.
Dang.
Today we mourn is what they said. So yeah, it doesn't look like there's opportunities of them being picked back up for HBO Max and Paramount. So that's kind of crazy, but I think this is a really great insight in regards to what's going on. And it's funny, we did post this over on our our Facebook page, and I'm really interested in some of the comments that we actually wind up getting in regards to it. It's a real mixed bag, honestly, of how people feel about what's going on. A lot of people kind of calling this article bullshit and kind of making excuses for the CW, but I think financially and business wise, it certainly does make a hell of a lot of sense. The purpose of the pushback that they're giving to this is the fact that, hey, had you just made much better written scripted television series, we may not necessarily be in this circumstance, in the sense of more viewers watching you. The ratings certainly would have been up, and you wouldn't have to necessarily have canceled that. And while I do agree with them to a certain extent, I do feel like it certainly goes much deeper than that, though, especially when we do see how the streaming wars, the selling of the CW, the merger and acquisition of Warner Media, I think there's a lot more to that than just as simple of, hey, give us better written content. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But maybe I'm mistaken there.
No, you're making total sense. And yeah, it's, I think one thing that gives, not all these shows, obviously, I'm talking more just for the DC shows. One thing they do have going for them still is that they have an opportunity to get closure in a way if they choose to with the Flash, because I know that with Eric Wallace, one thing he's been mentioning is that he really wants to use more guest stars for the last season of the Flash. Like, basically he wants season 9 to be like Flash Armageddon, essentially. And so I figure if you're going to do that, if the CW allows it, which it may not, because I feel like getting guest stars is really expensive, so they may not allow that budget for the Flash's final season. But if they do, they could totally take advantage of the Flash's, connections with everyone, and possibly use the Flash to give shows like Legends and Naomi some closure that, they unfortunately didn't get to have.
Yeah, I definitely know what you mean there, man. This is going to be an interesting dilemma when it comes to the CW and seeing how it wraps up or how different it's certainly going to be. We've talked about this before, Stuart. The idea of like, with Warner Media's now having their own streaming service and stuff, I'm sure a lot of the content that they plan on creating, they probably want to keep that in studio. They probably want to keep that for themselves. I mean, you want to talk about not necessarily having a middleman any longer, right? That money coming directly to you, producing your own stuff and then posting it on your own streaming service. It does feel like that's a trajectory in which Warner Media certainly might be going, especially when we've got somebody like Discovery CEO who, the Discovery app is really a lot of unscripted shows. It feels like they're really changing not only what the CW might be, but also, TNT, TBS also as well, kind of making some significant changes there. And maybe a lot of their attention and focus will certainly shift to continuing to make these DC property shows, but maybe putting more of an effort and production behind them and throwing them on the HBO Max show. Do I think we'll still get some CW shows? Maybe. Like you said, I think there might be a library of characters that maybe Next Star, if they do purchase, might be like, hey, is there some characters maybe we can utilize and create for low scripted shows if they still do have some scripted shows on there? So I do think there's still a possibility, but this does feel like a shift in a direction very similar to what the MCU and Marvel Studios did back in the day when they really cut the legs of other low budget productions of other shows like The Runaways, Cloak and Dagger, and things like that from other channels like Freeform and whatever the case may be, and really focusing on putting that content directly on their own streaming service. It's just profitable and more lucrative that way. And I feel like that's the direction that Warner Media certainly might be taking also. I could be wrong, but that's kind of what I'm feeling though.
Mm-hmm.
Datilla does say the CW has gone through a lot of phases over the years. Remember when SmackDown used to be on there? Yeah, I do remember. It used to be was it on was that on the CW or was that like wasn't it UPN at one time, or am I thinking like a completely different channel? Do you remember, Stuart, at all?
I have no idea, but the CW reruns like a lot of shows that aren't even CW shows, so it's very possible that like SmackDown like had reruns on the CW.
Possibly. I'm not quite sure. I'll have to look that up, but I appreciate you bringing that up, Datilla. But look, guys, we want to know your thoughts. Cancellations abound for the CW, renewals when it comes to the CW. I'm kind of hoping that the article that we broke down for you to kind of give you a better understanding as to what's going on with not only the merger, but why it's turning out the way that it is, especially on something like a CW when they are in the process of trying to sell it off. It seems as though they're definitely trying to make it more appealing, certainly to buyers. But definitely does not mean they're tired of making DC shows for sure. DC, according to the Discovery CEO, definitely feels like their library of characters is key to their success. So we'll see the type of effort and the amount that definitely goes into producing some of these shows going forward. But as more changes come, as more series gets picked up or canceled, we'll definitely go ahead and keep you guys up to date. But we certainly want to know your thoughts in the live chat or the comment section box below after this video airs. And I think other than that, that will wrap it up for us. Topic wise for the day. So thank you very much, Stuart, for certainly joining us today, bro.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
As always, my guy, as always. And with that out of the way, Stuart, I think you know what time it is, sir.
It's time for live viewer questions.
We really just need like an audio of that just to play that before we transition.
Have an actual echo instead of me just saying questions.
I mean, it kind of works. I kind of appreciate you throwing in your echoes, man. It kind of works for me. Let's see here. We got a bunch of questions for you guys today, so let's fly through some of these. Stuart, good old Jessica Fryman's got a couple. With Batwoman and Legends canceled, are the rest of the Arrowverse shows next? Maybe not all of them. I do think that there's hope for Superman and Lois. That has been renewed for another season, if I'm not mistaken, Stuart. Stargirl, we haven't heard anything as of yet.
They
But
haven't that show got a renewed for a third season a while back, and I don't
okay.
know if that's part of like this next season or if it was technically part of the previous season, but it is for sure getting a season 3. It's season 4 we don't know about though.
Okay. As far as the rest of the other Arrowverse shows next, Flash might certainly be next. At least that's some of the assumption right now when it comes to season 9. Whether or not we get any more than that, who knows? But despite the cancellations, we do have Gotham Knights to certainly look forward to. So I am kind of curious as to how that's going to come across and if there's going to be an audience for it.
Yeah, and for Stargirl and Superman and Lois, like I just really hope they write their third seasons as if they're their last, just because I feel like there's a good chance they might be. But regardless, maybe they'll both continue on for a while. I really hope so because it's like Superman and Lois and Stargirl are currently like my 2 favorite of the DC Arrowverse shows. So fingers crossed, hoping for the best, but I really hope the writers prepare for the worst.
I get you. Do you think HBO Max would pick up Batwoman for a 4th season?
Ooh, that would be cool. I don't think so because like the way they describe it, it would they would have to be in a completely different studio. Production would have to completely shift. So it's a possibility. Like they did it with Supergirl, like they had to move everything, and then they also did it with Stargirl because I don't know for sure, but I think this season of Stargirl has moved to Vancouver. So, it
Were
is
they in
a
Atlanta?
possibility. Yeah, they were in Atlanta previously, and now they're in Vancouver filming for season 3. So it's a possibility, but I'm definitely not going to try to say that it's definitely happening or anything like that.
I gotcha. Yeah, I'm gonna hold my breath on that. Anytime the idea of a show getting canceled and getting picked up, has it happened before? Absolutely. I still feel like it's a stretch though, especially with Gotham Knights being on the CW. I mean, they could just renew it over Batwoman over on HBO Max and have it completely separate from the CW show Gotham Knights itself. But I think with some of the writers already moving on to Gotham Knights, I think that's kind of their focus. So I don't necessarily think it's going to be brought back.
Oh yeah, that's another thing. It's all the same people working on Gotham Knights. So, having 2 different productions in 2 different areas, that would be probably a bit too much for them.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Ibase has got a question. What's up, Ibase? I appreciate you coming through. He says, I'm confused. How exactly does a director make a movie a huge hit or miss? For example, John Watts exiting the Fantastic Four movie for the MCU. Besides doing an amazing job with the Tom Holland Spider-Man trilogies, how does a director even be a savior anyways if they're not the writers? Even music video directors these days, they all have no originality. They direct the same style bullshit most artists do these days. Same with Neo Saban Power Rangers. The writing sucked no matter who the directors were. I feel like you were going to say something there, Stuart. So you go ahead.
Well, really it just kind of depends on the biggest thing as a director is it depends on what you see when you read a script compared to what a lot of other people see when they read the script and how you visualize what you're seeing. Like there's only so much you can do. Like if you have a really bad script, it is a big challenge to make that into a good movie, but it is a possibility for sure. And in a way, yeah, I do think that directors get a lot more credit than they deserve compared to the writers. Like I think that it's kind of weird that when a movie is a success, the writer is only given like kind of a small round of applause, whereas the director seems to be praised afterwards. But yeah, there's a lot that the director kind of controls going into it. And I think they get too much praise and then also too much blame as well, because there's a lot of times where, a producer may have more say in what goes on in the movie that the director can't control. So, I don't know why it is the way that it is, but it just is. Like the director, it's like a quarterback of a football team. Really, they're only like a small part of a functioning machine, but yet when things go wrong, it's really easy to blame them. And then when things go right, it's really easy to praise them.
Yeah, it's really interesting. A couple things I do want to go ahead and point out. Movies and TV are 2 completely different beasts.
Mm-hmm.
Television is led by its writers, its showrunners, the people with the concepts and the ideas. television works that way in a sense that they are the head honchos in charge, and sometimes they'll have several different directors that might come in, and sometimes your main showrunner might be the writer and the director. But when it comes to TV, it's usually the writer that is in fact king there. Movie wise, it's the other way around. It's very much like you mentioned, Stuart, right? He is the director, is the quarterback. His vision of what he sees the script as is what's going to be presented in this big presentation of a film on the big screen. So he's definitely in charge and has an idea of what he wants to see visually, and it's really up to him to be able to adapt the script into a good movie. So when it comes to the movie, if it's a hit or a miss, a lot of that does fall on the lap of the directors. The idea of, did you coach up your acting enough, your actors enough to pull off the performances that you certainly needed, right? Were you able to take what the script asked of you and really put it on screen the way that it's certainly meant to, and impactful enough to create a really good movie? So when a movie does great, absolutely, the director will certainly take all the credit for it. When the movie does terribly, do they get some crap on them for it? Absolutely. But I do think when it goes bad, we also do tend to look at the writers, right? To see, oh man, I don't know if that script was strong enough. I guess it just really depends on how you perceive it. But a director being attached definitely does have a huge part when it comes to movies, just as to whether or not it's going to be a hit or a miss. I mean, look, everybody wants to make a hit. Making movies is not easy whatsoever. It's probably one of the most difficult things to do, just because of the fact that you've got so many people with vastly different opinions and how movies certainly hit them. So to be able to make a movie that hits everybody the same way or an enjoyous way, it is certainly difficult. So when somebody like a John Watts leaves a project based of him being the director, I think we can see his style of work that he was able to do in the Spider-Man movies and associate that with, I can kind of see the style that he created for those movies, even though, well, I think John Watts might have written, I don't know, did he write the Spider-Man movies or not? I'm not quite sure. But visually, of what he's able to express from the script to the big screen, I think, if anything, showcases that type of style might really work for something like a Fantastic Four that I think people are really excited about. And I think that's what makes them excited. Not to say that it's automatically going to be a hit, because again, it does come down to multiple factors. But John Watts exiting Fantastic Four, I think definitely has kind of bummed some people out, because I think they can see the potential. But yeah, directors control things when it comes to movies. When it comes to the television side of things, that's all the writers. But what do you think there, Stuart?
Yeah, for the most part, yeah, I definitely agree. And yeah, it's all just one big machine with many gears,
Yeah, I agree there for sure. He does say, what some insane conspiracies you've heard about the MCU from DCEU fans and vice versa? Are there any conspiracy theories that you've heard about the MCU from DCEU fans?
I mean, I don't know if I'd call them conspiracy theories, because it's all like at the very least you could call them like allegations, because technically nothing is 110% confirmed until you actually hear it from the person. But I guess the biggest conspiracy theory, if you want to call it that, is just everything that was going on like during phase 2 and before that, when you had kind of the really douchey CEO of Marvel who was in charge of the movies at the time, before they gave the movies to Kevin Feige to have 100% creative control over, or not 100%, but you know what I mean, before they gave him like the producer role of Marvel going forward. They originally had the dude who was like the head of Marvel, and he was kind of an asshole. So there was that, if that counts.
Yeah, that's the only one that I can really think of off the top of my head. I mean, I am kind of curious if you guys know of any other insane conspiracies that maybe DCEU fans have mentioned about the MCU. I can't really think of too many, honestly. But if you guys know any, let me know in the comments, please.
Yeah.
Kevin Rickardson, what's up, Kevin? Appreciate you coming through. How do you feel about Simu Liu, who's been getting tons of movie and TV deals since his successful debut in Shang-Chi? And do you feel as of late, while it's great he's been giving tons of opportunities, like the upcoming movie with Ryan Gosling and Margot Robbie talking about Barbie, do you think Simu's getting these opportunities has to do with his talent, not because he's Asian? I mean, I definitely do think I think Simu's a pretty talented dude. I mean, I saw him in who is it? Kim's Convenience is where I kind of recognize him from. I'm sure he had to beat out a couple of other great actors in Hollywood in order to kind of get this role too. I mean, I think when I look at the MCU, I think they do a really great job with casting. I think there's very few people that MCU has cast that I've shined any doubt on. Maybe Natalie Portman earlier on as Jane Foster, was like the only hiccup. But outside of that, I think the MCU picking up Simu Liu is because of how talented he is and the fact that he was able to beat some pretty good competition for the role. And I think anytime that you get the opportunity to be the lead of a movie and your movie is successful, something that you carried, I think that even opens up the eyes for more opportunities in Warner Brothers for people to truly start believing in you a little bit more. Because if he's done it once, there's a possibility if we give him a pretty good script, he might be able to certainly do it again. And so I think Simu Liu has definitely proven himself talent-wise, more so than the idea of him just being an Asian guy. But what do you think, Stuart?
Yeah, I fully agree. I think it's because he's very talented and he was in a Marvel movie. As soon as you get that Marvel, logo under your name, then suddenly every studio is going to want to work with you.
Yeah, opportunities definitely do open themselves up. And again, especially if you have a very successful Marvel movie at that. Gabriel says, with the recent announcement of, and also real quick before I move on, it's one of those things too, Stuart, where it's like you start noticing everybody these days wanting to be a part of the MCU. I don't know how many interviews that people said, "Oh yeah, I would love to be a part of the MCU." Of course you would. Of course
Yeah.
you would, right? Like
Everyone wants that Marvel name.
absolutely. With the recent announcement of Warner, this is from Gabriel. Thank you, Gabriel. With the recent announcement of Warner Brothers and the CW canceling majority of the Arrowverse television shows, Legends, Batwoman, don't you think it was really, really unfair of Javicia Leslie, who had barely been a superhero for less than 2.5 seasons, discovering her own show had been scrapped? Do I think it's unfair? Yes. But one of the lines that I say often, especially on A Plus More Phenomenal, it's not my line. I heard it from somebody. It's not show friends, it's show business. And at the end of the day, unfortunately, things behind the scenes just took place. The whole Batwoman scenario in general was probably unfair for a lot of people, aside from Javicia Leslie, in regards to how everything played itself out. A lot of that could be really put on Ruby Rose and maybe others as well. Is it unfair? Absolutely, but unfortunately, that's the show business of it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, 110% for sure.
You say season 1 was with Ruby Rose as the original Batwoman, and Javicia introduces Ryan Wilder in season 2, which shows heavily. The show heavily made this entire season all about looking for Kate Kane and bringing closure to her, which actress Wallace Day. Javicia was basically just there. But while I haven't watched season 3, I felt like they gave Javicia her own season in the 3rd season, right?
Yeah, that's why I wasn't like too upset when like Batwoman got canceled, because I was just kind of relieved that they finally not only had like a good season, they had a good season where Javicia was actually like the main character, and they didn't focus an entire they didn't focus her introduction on, oh, we got to fight Kane, we got to find Kate Kane. That would have been like if all of season 1 of Batwoman was, we got to find Batman. I'm glad that they eventually moved on from Kate Kane and they finally gave her her own like season. Batwoman season 2 is just kind of a weird season of television in general, whereas like Batwoman season 3, it really does feel, it's kind of like Titan season 3 in that way. It feels like another reboot. It feels like an actual like fresh start for that character. So it's why, like, if anyone's ever interested in Batwoman, I kind of would just say, you can just skip to season 3 if you want.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point. So yeah, I appreciate the questions, Gabriel, for sure. Let's see here. We also got Kurt Marino. What are some of your theories you have that you want to happen and not happen in Thor: Love and Thunder? I would like to see Valkyrie find love. I think Tessa Thompson finding a queen would work out really well. I'm kind of curious as to who her love interest certainly might be. That's something I definitely want to see. I personally would like to see Beta Ray Bill pop up in this movie in some capacity or another. Just that, and then also really just the Jane breast cancer storyline are really the three things that I'm kind of looking forward to the most to see exactly how Taika Waititi embraces that. So what about you, Stuart? Any theories that you have that you want to see happen or not happen in Love and Thunder?
I really hope that I get a lot of good laughs, but I also really hope they can give me a good emotional punch, very similar to Jojo Rabbit, you know?
Absolutely. I think Taika can definitely bring that. He also says in the trailer of Love and Thunder, the beginning sounded like Thor wants to give up being a superhero. If that's the case, and with Jane Foster becoming Mighty Thor, do you think Thor will retire or continue being an Avenger?
I mean, he can still be an Avenger without having to, without having to go into battle. He can still be like, whether it be technical support or just the team's therapist, that would actually be kind of an interesting like direction to take him, something like that. There's still a lot of good you can do that doesn't involve violence, and I think that's like the direction they're trying to move his character, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I kind of want to see this journey that he's going to be on and what his end result is going to be. I mean, while we did have Mighty Thor in the comic books, Thor still continued to fight as Odin's son. Just in his own, costume, he had his axe still. To the point to where I think he might have even tried to take a different position as the king of Asgard at some particular point in time. We clearly already have a king in Valkyrie, but I am kind of curious as to where Valkyrie's story ends and maybe where Thor's story ends. And if by the end, maybe we see him take the throne again reluctantly, while Valkyrie maybe goes on and does something along her own lines. Maybe she's bored of being the king. Like maybe being the king and ruling over Asgard just isn't a good fit for her, and she wants to find love and go on an adventure for all we know. So I am intrigued to kind of see where Thor's story gets him, but I don't think he's going to be completely passive in this movie. He's definitely going to get himself into some action, to say the least. But I cannot wait to see Mighty Thor and Thor actually meet and just to see his reaction. Like if his reaction to losing Jane in Avengers Endgame was some type of way, imagine seeing her come back with those swollen arms and holding Mjolnir. Yeah, it's gonna be something fascinating to check out.
Yeah, I am definitely super hyped.
He also says, won't fans feel upset if Jane takes over as Thor if Chris Hemsworth leaves the franchise? Wouldn't it make the reception in the box office not do so well if word goes around? I don't think that's the route that they're going. I feel like Chris Hemsworth really loves this character, and I think Taika Waititi brings a rejuvenated energy to the character for him that I can see him wanting to stick around for maybe even another movie. So I don't necessarily know if I think that Jane's Mighty Thor will take the full lead. I think if anything, Chris Hemsworth will certainly maybe still be around. I don't know if they would have co-lead. It's either going to be a situation of co-leads or Jane will be the lead, but we'll still have our dose of Chris Hemsworth to certainly satisfy us as fans. That's kind of direction I think they're going. What about you though?
Yeah, as long as Chris Hemsworth wants to be Thor, they're gonna let him be Thor for a while. And even if he does want to pass the torch down to Jane, that's totally fine. But like the people who are upset about it, who are like, no, there's only one Thor, that type of fan base, they're keep in mind that they don't actually make a difference in terms of box office sales. They rant about stuff that like no one else cares about, but in the long run, it doesn't really have a big impact on box office sales, honestly. At least not that I've noticed.
Yeah, no, I definitely get you there. Real quick side mention before we move on to the next email. Marcelino did say, going back to the conspiracy theories, he just said the closest to a conspiracy theory I heard is that the only haters of Batman versus Superman are Marvel fans who are determined to hate it no matter what. Is that you, Stuart?
Nope. I wanted to like this movie really badly, and I still do. I still wish I liked this movie as much as other people do.
Yeah, no, I feel you there. Let's see here. We got Joey Thompson with an email. He says, "Do you think Ant-Man is the most underrated superhero and film in the MCU? Not a lot of people care about the films and could just be me, but Ant-Man and the Atom from DC's Legends of Tomorrow series both can shrink down in size and grow giant as well. Would you like a crossover between the two in some form?" I don't think a crossover is going to happen. It would be pretty fun. Give me Paul Rudd and Brandon Routh all day. I would love to see those two interact with each other. I don't think it's going to happen, but fan can hope. You know what I'm saying? I think that'd be pretty fun.
God damn, now that I'm thinking about it, if this was the early 2000s, I feel like the two of them would have actually made a funny duo in a comedy of some sort.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Just with Brandon Routh's timing and his presence and persona, along with Paul Rudd's comedy chops. Yeah, man, I would absolutely love to see those two bounce off of each other. But do you think Ant-Man is the most underrated superhero and film in the MCU, Stuart?
I mean, I don't know if I'd call him like underrated. I think he's rated exactly where I would, which is that I really enjoy him when he's on screen, and his movies are just, decently average. I don't really love either of them, but I enjoy them just fine. I'll watch them whenever they're on.
I think I don't know about superhero in the MCU, but I will say um I don't think it's the most underrated MCU film. I think the most underrated MCU film is probably the first Thor movie. I don't think that movie gets enough praise for what it accomplished and what it was able to do in regards to expanding the MCU universe. It continues to be one of my favorite Thor movies. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Ragnarok, but there is something about the first Thor that really just works incredibly well for me. But I don't think it gets as much love as it probably deserves. So I feel like the first Thor movie is probably more underrated than Ant-Man. As far as is he the most underrated MCU superhero? I don't know. There's a part of me that it's kind of funny. I did just run across a list. I don't know if it was IGN or somebody wind up making a list of like their top 25 Marvel characters, and I saw Wanda Maximoff, Scarlet Witch, at number 25. Number 25, behind like Jessica Jones and Phil Coulson. And if that's the case, that's one underrated ass character, man. In regards to Scarlet, I don't think she's underrated, but the list that I saw today did make me laugh a little bit. I was like, wow, number 25 of most important or like impactful MCU characters. Okay. So maybe Scarlet Witch if that's true, but I think people respect her enough.
Mhm.
I could be wrong there, but we'll see. Francois, what's up, Francois Dupont? What do you think of Ezra Miller's recast rumor being debunked by Warner Brothers? There were rumors and speculation that actor Dylan O'Brien was going to replace Ezra as the Flash. Do you think this debunk is real and that Ezra will remain as a superhero for the foreseeable future, despite the issues he's been having behind the scenes?
I didn't know it got debunked. I did hear that rumor of Dylan O'Brien being the next Flash, but I didn't hear anything about it getting debunked. I also didn't hear anything about it being anything more than a rumor. So,
Rumor, yeah. No, none of the
yeah.
big headlines ran with it as far as like Deadline, Variety. It literally was just a rumor that was a report that was kind of thrown out there. I don't believe them to be true. One because I still have my hopes that Dylan O'Brien will end up being Nightwing in the Batgirl movie as Dick Grayson. So I'm hoping that he will play somebody else significantly. And also, look, I know this is going to upset some people, but I still think that Ezra Miller's planning on being the Flash, at least until the Flash movie is announced. I do think that Warner Brothers is still under the impression of staying under the radar, not saying too much of anything in regards to what's going on with Ezra, hoping that this blows over within a year, right? The Flash movie's not due until June of 2023. That's a long time, especially for a society like us that's very recent and like we react to things now and we have really short-term memories. In a year, some of us will even forget that this sort of thing happened as long as Ezra Miller can just stay out of trouble. You know what I mean? And honestly, they just revealed brand new footage at CinemaCon recently. to people that really enjoyed the footage that they saw. I didn't hear anybody from CinemaCon, no more Ezra, no more Ezra. There's nobody protesting about it. They devoured the Flash footage. And so for me, that just screams people are going to be perfectly okay when this movie drops next year. And then if anything, I do think that they will make changes, but considering the fact that this movie doesn't come out for a whole nother year, I think the idea of recasting the Flash is something that they're not looking to do right now, but maybe that there's something that they're looking to do or announce closer to maybe the release or once the release winds up happening. So I don't think Warner Brothers has even given thought as of right now or even looked at other actors to play the Flash. That's just me though, Stuart. Do you think that Warner Brothers has gone looking and has found their next Flash that they probably won't even announce for like another year?
I think I'm kind of with you. Like they're currently they might have it in the back burner, but I don't think they're like super worried about it because the movie's not even going to be out for like another year now. And I think they're just going to kind of wait to see if people are still upset when this movie comes out. And if they are, because here's the thing, even if they do recast Ezra Miller, there's no way they're not releasing this movie. They have spent way too much money on this movie to not release it. And
Right.
they can't possibly reshoot the whole thing because a lot of the VFX that involve Ezra Miller are already done. And you'd have to reshoot those VFX scenes with a new actor would just cost way too much money and too much time. It wouldn't work for anyone really. So they're going to be releasing this movie. Ezra's going to star in it. And I think if people are still upset after he stars in it and after this movie gets released, that's when Warner Brothers is going to finally, take action and possibly replace Ezra Miller in the future. Do I think that's the morally right way to go about it? No, but that is the very business standpoint, or that is a very business-like decision, and it very much feels like a very Warner Brothers type decision compared, like when looking at some of the things that they've been doing in the past. Fantastic Beast. A lot of people wanted Johnny Depp to be recasted in the second movie because this is before, the recording of like Amber Heard confessing came out basically. And Warner Brothers didn't want to react to it until after the movie came out. And that's when they fired him. And then of course, after they fired him, that's when suddenly everyone was switching sides. And now, everyone's like, no, now we need to fire Amber Heard. And of course they couldn't fire her before Aquaman 2, or they could, they just chose not to. So their response is currently to give her less screen time and to see if people are still angry about it after Aquaman 2 comes out. I have no doubt that when Aquaman 3 comes out, they're definitely going to be recasting her character,
Yeah, I feel like every Amber Heard article I've seen is like, she's got 10 minutes of screen time. Now she's got 8 minutes of screen time. Amber Heard has 6 minutes of screen time. Like, damn, okay.
Trying to trim as much fat as they can off of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, man, so I'm not under the beliefs of the Dylan O'Brien. If they come to fruition, hey, that's cool. But I'm definitely not under the belief, especially considering Deadline has reported it, Hollywood Reporter, Variety, that type of thing. So I would keep an eye out. And just to go back to the list that we were talking about, it is in fact IGN.com that posted the top 25 best Marvel heroes in the MCU, ranking the greatest heroes of the MCU. Because we're just talking about the idea of who's underrated. This was just released like literally May 12th. So literally like 3 days ago. And the number 25 is Wanda Maximoff, Scarlet Witch. And this is their reasoning for putting her at number 25. Let's face it, Wanda would have been higher on this list after the events of WandaVision if it weren't for the events of Doctor Strange, which puts her status as hero in question. So it's the idea of like, is she a hero? It's just so stupid. I mean, I get it, but like, I get it, but are you like? It's to me the idea of them taking it that literal, of like best Marvel heroes. Like, damn, 25. Like, okay, I guess.
Because here's the thing, people want to make the excuse for Wanda saying, "Oh, well, it wasn't her being evil. The Darkhold got a hold of her," which is true. But she could have easily not read the Darkhold. She saw what the Darkhold had done to Agatha. and she still just thought, hey, I could still read this and it'll be fine, I'll be totally okay at the end of it. And yeah, it led to so many body counts. So yeah, no, even though like, yeah, she may have been corrupted by the Darkhold, she still chose to read it. So that is 110% her responsibility. All those people that died are, yeah, she is 100% responsible for those deaths. That's my viewpoint on it. So no, I would not consider Wanda a hero anymore.
So yeah, that's why they technically put her as number 25.
But she's still an interesting character, so I would still rank her higher.
Higher than that. Like the people they have in front of her, I'm like, damn, guys, all right, but hey, whatever. But I will say this: watching Doctor Strange 2, maybe we'll sometime this week we'll finally do a spoiler discussion since I finally got the opportunity to watch it. But I had no problem with her character path. This is the same people that are complaining. I feel like that complain about Emilia Clarke's turn in the end of Game of Thrones. Oh, but we didn't see that coming. What are you talking about, guys? Like, but all right, hey, whatever. It's written down. I mean, if you watch WandaVision, this makes perfect sense for her character. Next question from good old Michael Rhymes. What do you think of Marvel exclusively releasing Miss Marvel in Pakistan as 6 parts in celebration of Miss Marvel being the first? Hold on. Wait, hold on. Let me just read that again. What do you think of Marvel exclusively releasing Miss Marvel in Pakistan as 6 parts in celebration of Miss Marvel being the first Muslim Marvel character to debut in the MCU? Do you hope Marvel does more exclusive premieres? This looks like it was an announcement that was given over on Twitter from a verified source. It says a Marvel's new original series, Miss Marvel, will be exclusively released in cinemas only in Pakistan. So it looks like episodes 1 and 2 will debut June 16th, 3 and 4, June 30th, and then 5 and 6, July 14th. So they're celebrating it, not only breaking it into 6 episodes, which I believe is the series length itself, but they're also going to be putting it out in theaters in Pakistan. I think that's pretty awesome, man. I think that's great. I kind of dig the idea of Marvel doing that exclusively for the areas in which you're representing. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I hope that in the future, like for this one, I definitely get why they're doing it that way. But I hope in the future it would be really cool if they wanted to release, like, yeah, the first, like not even the full series, but like at least like the first episode or 2, like exclusively in movie theaters, or not exclusively, but like have them premiere in movie theaters before taking them to streaming services. Because Doctor Who did that all the time. Since we were talking about Doctor Who earlier, like yeah, the first episode I saw with the current Doctor, Jodie, I actually saw that first episode in theaters. So it'd be cool to do that with some Marvel shows as well.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I saw them do that with Lost, at least the series finale. They did that in theaters. Me, my friend Jonathan, and Maggie, I think we went and checked out the Lost series finale in theaters. It was a great experience. I definitely would love to see that more. Good old Jericho Gonzalez. He says, you guys talk about how Sony has been known for making mediocre movies, specifically comic book ones. You agree or disagree that critics and even people on YouTube these days are the cause of bringing movies down in both box office and critical reviews? Let me read that again. You agree or disagree that critics and even people on YouTube these days are the cause of bringing movies down in both the box office and critical reviews? It seems like when a movie underperforms, word gets around where people won't go out and see it. I don't know if that's do you think that's a blame on critics or people on YouTube these days, or do you just think it's the idea of just not good movies and people are recognizing them?
I can't speak for everyone, but for me, the only time I let a critic, determine whether or not I go to see a movie or not, if it's a movie I'm on the fence about, and it's one that I'm not 100% sure I want to see in theaters, or if it's one where it's like I have to choose between one movie or another, that's when I'm just going to go, okay, let me see what some of these reviews are saying about these movies before I decide which one I'm going to commit to, because again, when you're going out to see a movie, especially with how long movies are nowadays, you got to like plan 3 hours of your day, which when you're an adult working full time can be kind of a challenge, so trying to find the time to do so and that kind of stuff. Yeah, it makes sense that you're going to let a critic determine it. Now, what I think is bad is if you see a movie that looks really cool and then you let a critic tell you not to go see it. that's what I think you should never do. But if you let a critic be your determining factor, I think that's what their job is overall. It should be to kind of tell you if you're on the fence whether or not to go see a movie, not to not see a movie if it's a movie that you're looking forward to. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right in regards to that. And that's another reason why we always push the idea of, despite what a reviewer says, go see the movie for yourself. If it's something that you definitely want to see, check it out. He also says, I want to ask, how do you feel when people who do reviews on YouTube exaggerate their opinions on movies that they don't really like or extremely hate, but others really liked and enjoyed? Do you wish that they would just see a movie just to relax and with an open mind, just having a voice in their head that they are only watching a specific movie to just do a video on? I've seen some people who do videos where they waste their time and tell people on camera that they go out and see a movie they hate. They're stupid people and meaningless human being. God damn, why are you? My
Yeah.
question would be, why are you watching them? First off, in that regards, if they talk to people in that sense, but I mean, everybody's gonna approach it differently. And think because of the fact that we have so many reviewers out there and people that can be overly critical sometimes, it is again another reason why we tell you view it for yourself. Because I'm sure there are probably reviewers out there that people find that appeal to them, that maybe feel like have the same sort of taste. But just because somebody might have the same sort of taste and maybe you agree on some of the things that they've said before about other movies, it is always imperative that you check it out for yourself and build your own opinion. um I don't, do I wish that they would just go into a movie relaxed and open-minded? Sure, but I guess it just really depends on what their true intentions are. You know what I mean? Everybody
Yeah.
has their own intentions. Some people just know being negative about everything will bring you views, unfortunately. So sometimes there's objective, sometimes there isn't. I just think you should be wary of the people that you listen to and who you trust for their opinions.
Yeah, for me, it's like a lot of times I get those like minor frustrations when I'm watching like a negative review of a movie I really like, where, something I really like about a movie will go over someone else's head and I'll be annoyed that they didn't address that. And I'll be like, oh, but you're missing this awesome part about the movie. Why didn't you bring that up? And kind of stuff like that. But I have to, I think one of the challenges is realizing that not everyone has the same perspective. So something really cool that you may see from something isn't necessarily gonna be on someone else's mind because they're still hung up on something else that they didn't like about the movie. And then the other thing is like when it comes to like the overly negative, the ones that go in just to hate the movie, like they like they do it just to look for the bad and not to look for anything else. It's like weird because I love the Angry Video Game Nerd and I love Cinema Sins. But the problem is there are a lot of people, I think, that watch those shows and don't know that it's a joke. Like they
Mm.
think that they'll watch it, and even though like specifically like with the Angry Video Game Nerd, he mentioned this several times. Like when you watch his serious reviews, like movie reviews, he's very smart and articulate when he talks about them. But a lot of people just watch his Angry Video Game Nerd stuff, which is a comedy. It's meant to be a joke. It's a nerd that like gets overly pissed off when he plays a bad video game to the point where he does physical damage to the game and to himself at times. And it's a joke, like, but the problem is people will watch that and they'll think, okay, I need to review movies like this. And so they'll do it with that type of energy, except for there won't be any laughs or anything because they think, hey, this is how real critics review stuff. And so they'll review it without the comedy aspect. So it just comes off as mean spirited,
Yeah, no, I totally get you. So I would just say, just be wary of who you listen to and who you watch. If it feels like it's a little bit too negative, change the tune. Change what you're watching for sure. Nicole Robertson. Hey y'all, what's up? Hope you're doing well. Very good. Nicole, thank you very much. For the Bad Bunny comic book movie that you guys talked about last week, and since you guys mentioned that Sony makes some really bad or mediocre movies, like I just think they're mediocre. What director do you like to see direct the movie? Either they were from really successful films or really bad ones. God, I don't know enough about El Muerto to know like what director I would like to see tackle that type of film. Um there I'm trying to think of other wrestling movies. One movie that I remember Florence Pugh was in, which was actually a pretty good one, was Wrestling with My Family, I think, or Fighting with My
Oh,
Family.
I still haven't seen that, but I
That's such a
remember
good
really
movie.
liking the trailer for it.
I really enjoyed it. I've seen it a couple times, and I'm actually a really big fan. That's where I first introduced to Florence Pugh, but I do like that. So if you're looking for a wrestling aspect to it, maybe them. I don't know how they would bring the action though in regards to it. Again, I'm not too familiar with El Muerto outside of the fact of him just being a super powered wrestler. I was gonna say maybe get somebody from WWE Films to make this movie, but we know their track record. Um, Ooh, Datilla says she was an extra in Fighting with Family. I didn't know
Oh,
that,
that's
Datilla.
cool.
That's pretty cool. Are you able to find yourselves in the movie when you watch it? She also says The Wrestler is a great movie too. Who can you look that up for me, Stuart? Who directed The Wrestler? Maybe we'll put him on the list also. Or anybody that's done any type of like warrior, maybe whoever did the warrior, anybody that's done like competitive sort of fighting or
Ooh,
something like that would be a good one.
Darren Aronofsky.
Oh, Dan Aronofsky. Okay, that sounds familiar. I feel like I've seen some of his work. So yeah, why not? Why not, Sony? Who else we got here? AJ's got a couple questions. What were some of your favorite films from Mission Impossible? And are you surprised it's going for 7 films at this point? Funny that Fast and the Furious franchise are often criticized or made fun of for lasting super long, but due to the movie going balls to the walls with its lack of law and physics. Mission Impossible, though, I think hasn't really gone off the rails like Fast and the Furious. You said Fast and Furious is often criticized. I mean, I can see why it's criticized and made fun of, but I think Tom Cruise has done a remarkable job of keeping Mission Impossible quite serious by really putting his own life in danger every freaking film that he's in and doing stuff that Fast and the Furious wish they could probably do. So yeah, I don't mind Mission Impossible going on that long, especially considering the fact that it continues to reinvent itself and going forward. I think for me, honestly, Stuart, one of my favorite sequences from Mission Impossible, I can't remember which one it was. I want to say it was the third one where J.J. Abrams comes in to go ahead and revitalize it. And there's a great shot in the movie where Ethan Hunt's girlfriend gets captured. It's the climax of the movie. She gets captured, and he goes to locate her, and the building that he goes to doesn't have her, and he realizes something like she's like in another warehouse or someplace like a mile down the road or like a half a mile down the street, and it's literally an entire one cut edit shot of just Tom Cruise just fucking sprinting, bro, just like for oh my god, like the obstacles he goes through, the close-up shots from the cameras, the pullback of just seeing how long Tom Cruise just runs for in an all-out sprint to go ahead and save his wife, man. It was incredible to watch. I absolutely love it, man. Tom Cruise just impresses the hell out of me, man. I know he's kind of crazy with all the Scientology bullshit, whatever the case may be. People probably look at him a certain type of way, but when it comes to putting into effort in regards to making a movie and putting his life on the line, Tom Cruise is the man. I can't even lie.
As
But yeah, it was such a great shot. Really long, unedited. I don't know how long Homeboy ran for, but it looked like he ran for a straight half a mile in a full-on sprint. I've never seen anybody do it like that before, but I know Homeboy had to be exhausted after it. But it is always a scene that stays in my mind, and he's done some crazy stunts, but for some reason, that one always stands the test of time for me.
Yeah, the amount of effort he puts into like all of his movies, and the fact that like he does his own stunts and basically learns how to be in the role. Like for Maverick, for example, like the fact that he's like, no, I want to be an actual pilot before filming this movie. So like they actually took him, through the course of like how to fly one of those jets. That's just something amazing, because it's like people dedicate their whole lives, to being to being in these certain careers. He does it so he can film one movie, but he, dedicates as much time as he would if it was something he wanted to do for a career. And that's just incredible to me.
I mean, he knows how to fly a jet plane, crazy. He knows how to fly a helicopter, which, mind you, for the Maverick premiere, he literally flew his own helicopter to an aircraft carrier, landed on it, stepped out in a tuxedo, and walked down a red fucking carpet. I mean, come on. Tom fucking Cruise, man, piloting a helicopter. Crazy stuff, man. Crazy stuff. So yeah, I will be watching his next Mission Impossible movie. He just makes it interesting, man. What do you think of the new trailer for Cobra Kai season 5? Did you expect the new season to come out in September instead of New Year's Day like the last season? And what do you hope this season does even better? I think I only saw the trailer briefly, so I don't remember too much of it. But what do you guys think? What did you think, Stuart? Did you remember seeing it?
I am so sorry. I got distracted for a brief moment.
Oh no, you're fine. It was about a new trailer for Cobra Kai season 5.
Wait, really?
Yeah, I think it might have come out sometime this week, maybe. I don't remember. I don't think it was super long. I could be wrong. Was it? I think it might have been the Cobra Kai. Like I think it was the Cobra focused one when they showed how expansive Cobra Kai has become since them winning the tournament and stuff. So Cobra Kai is all over the place, and really the idea of like Daniel and Johnny shutting down their dojos and stuff because Cobra Kai is kind of taken over after their win. It really sets an interesting tone, I thought, for the upcoming season. I'm glad that it's going to be here around the corner. I mean, if I could have it September instead of New Year's Day, I'll take it any sooner they want to give it to me.
I'm glad they're giving it to us now before it gets canceled, because I think Netflix is going to be making a lot of unfortunate changes going soon.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. And also, you know how some shows can be considered milking it if they go on too long. But for short episodes like Cobra Kai, do you think it could go a little longer, since the entire series has been consistent with storytelling and has been doing a hell of a job with using the original actors, but still give high focus on the younger cast? You know, I don't know how many more seasons they got inside of them. I think they probably got like a 6th and a 7th season available storyline wise. I think if the storytelling is still there, if they're still evolving the characters, I really do love the bite-sized episodes that we're getting. It's a very digestible season. I think they could probably have a couple more episodes. Do you think Cobra Kai is getting to the point of feeling like it's milking it? Or do you think they're on a good trajectory right now?
You know, at the very end of every season, I keep saying I don't know how they can go more than one more season. So for now, my answer is I don't think they can do more than one season, but my answer could easily change based on how season 5 turns out to be.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with you there. Let's see here. We got Marcelino Vasquez. What do you think of Space Jam: A New Legacy? Did you get the chance to see the LeBron James led Space Jam?
I did. I actually kind of enjoyed it. Like, I get that, like, it wasn't everyone's favorite, but I thought it very much felt very in line with the first movie, except for now, instead of just the Looney Tunes, it's really focusing on the entire Warner Brothers catalog and everything like that. So I could see why it kind of felt over cluttered in that kind of sense, but I didn't mind it because we still got a lot of time with the actual Looney Tunes. And I think one thing that also really helped is, you know, love the original, but dear God, Michael Jordan it was so hard for him to act with the cartoons that weren't really there, and he did the best that he could. But I like this so much better, seeing LeBron as a cartoon interacting with other cartoons that way. I think it just looks a lot better until, of course, the last act, where then it goes to the kind of traditional live action characters with cartoon characters. But for the cartoon segment, I thought I actually enjoyed that a little bit more than the first Space Jam movie, just because it felt more natural, you know, the interactions.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't mind it. I mean, I think I checked it out and I was like, oh, that was an enjoyable little movie. I'm not something I'm writing home about, but I thought it was a pretty good iteration, or a pretty good addition to the Space Jam movies that we got. So I thought it did the job that it was certainly supposed to do. I didn't think it was anything too crazy, but enjoyable. Some people defend Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor by stating his version of Lex Luthor is supposed to start out the way he was in Batman vs. Superman, so he can go on a character arc in later films and become Lex Luthor we know from the comics. This argument has been made towards other characters like Ahsoka, Laurel, Lance, Zuko, the Hound, and Carol from The Walking Dead, all of whom started out as the most hated characters, but eventually turned into well-rounded and beloved characters as the time went on. Do you think this argument is fair and that fans should be more patient to get what they want? Or is there more to it. One, I don't think we're ever going to find out. I think Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor story has been told. Um, I don't expect him to pop up anymore anywhere else, if you ask me, Stuart. But what do you think? I mean, do you think the argument is fair? Like, had we given him more time, people would have come around to it, or do you think he just already left that bad of a taste in our mouth that Batman versus Superman? It feels kind of like a mute point at this point, though, just because I don't think we're going to see any more of him. So I don't think we're going to get that character arc. I think all we're going to get is what we saw. But do you think there was an opportunity that he could have grown and become a fan favorite, or not really?
No, and here's the main reason. So I'll use one of the examples that they used, which was Ahsoka. Ahsoka, and when she makes her first appearance, and she's kind of an annoying kid, and you don't ever think she's going to become a likable character. And then when you see where she's at now, you can really see like an actual linear progression from point A to point B, and you can see that progression happening before it even happens. Like the flaws that they show Ahsoka having in that movie are there on purpose because they want you to know that this character is going to mature and grow over time. They want her to be kind of annoying in this, so that way you can learn to like her over time, basically. With this version of Lex Luthor, if we were going to have like kind of the more comic book accurate version of Lex Luthor, like let's say that's the destination, I don't see how you can get to that destination if this is the Lex Luthor you're starting at. I see that Lex Luthor transitioning, like developing into other kind of crazy villains. Lex Luthor is just not one of them, you know?
I get you. I think that's probably the better point, especially when you're comparing them to their arcs are just different, right? So whatever path Lex Luthor might have been on was probably already going to be a different path than we got Ahsoka, Zuko, Carol, and things like that. So I definitely do think you make a good point there. Marceline also says, do you hear people from diverse communities complain about woke culture? For example, I hear Black people say that they don't want a Black Superman because it's disrespectful to Henry Cavill. They defend Hartley Sawyer's actions. They hate how Black Lightning demonizes the police and that race swapping shouldn't exist. I hear Latinos complain about the race swapping of Supergirl. I hear women call out Birds of Prey for being anti-man and that there should be a female James Bond or Zorro. And I hear in the LGBT community criticizing the decision of making Tim Drake, John Kent, and Izzy from Dino Fury part of the LGBT community, claiming it's not representation, but forced diversity. My question is that since these people are from diverse communities, should they be listened to since they probably know what's best or not? I want to just make a point that it's also best not to pile diversities into the opinions of a few, because everybody in those cultures feel significantly different. So for instance, I'm half Latino, I'm half Black, and I don't necessarily view those way that this other people in community do. So I don't want to clump it up and to say that all these people in this community feel these type of way, because that's unfortunately not true. So everybody's certainly going to have their own opinion. Some people may feel that it's forced. For some people, I would also say, let the writing certainly speak for itself. But I don't think one or a handful or a couple of people's views in a diverse community represent, in general, what everybody is certainly thinking. I mean, that's I feel like it's a pretty slippery slope there. But what about you?
Yeah, no, I mean, I 100% agree. Like, the thing is, no matter what you're trying to do, no matter who you're trying to please, you're not going to please everyone with that certain group that you're trying to please, because everyone is different. Everyone has a very different viewpoint, you know?
Yeah, and some people definitely do have their own agendas that we don't necessarily know about. Some people support causes, some people certainly don't. So like for me, I don't necessarily believe that Black Lightning demonized the police and that race swapping shouldn't exist. I think if anything, I think they just simply bring an awareness to the real life situation that African Americans find themselves when it comes to their relationship with police officers, right? But I never felt like Black Lightning demonized it. But again, I'm sure
his best friend was a cop.
His best friend was a cop, right? So it's like there are just people out there that may be of that diverse community that have their own opinions, but I'm not going to sit here and say all black people that watch Black Lightning believe that sort of thing, right? So your question of, since these people are from diverse communities, should they be listened to? I think they should be listened to, because I do think that maybe some of these opinions they have come from a place of the struggles that their particular culture have dealt with. But I think the idea of listening to it as pure fact that everybody in that community feels that way, that's doing a little bit of a disservice. So much as it's okay to listen to somebody's opinion, doesn't mean that that opinion represents what everybody believes.
Yeah, very, very well said.
We also have let's see here, Andrew. What's up, Andrew? What do you think of the CW network canceling tons of shows lately? And what do you want to see happen in the future? What impact did that series Arrow bring to television? And would you like to see a potential 10th anniversary special? I still would like to see a 10th anniversary special with Arrow, Stewart. I don't know how they would do that. Do you think that's something that they would certainly do, especially with the trajectory of the CW in the process of maybe being sold and a lot of these cancellations happening? Are you still confident that maybe they will do something for a 10th anniversary, or that's not something that's on their mind?
I feel like it's definitely got to be on the writers' minds. It's definitely got to be on a lot of the shows, like the showrunners and the show producers' minds. I feel like when it comes to the CW themselves, like just the people who are in charge of everything on the CW, I don't think they could care any less about it. And then same with Warner Brothers, because I feel like in terms of everything DC wise that Warner Brothers is working with, I feel like the Arrowverse is just such a small part of that they, only really think about it every now and then. I don't think it's like on their mind constantly. In fact, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if half the times when they're making like decisions about future movies going forward, I wouldn't be surprised if they forget if some of these characters are actually in these other shows,
Yeah.
But I do think, because, you can tell with even when I don't like the writing of a lot of these CW shows, with a lot of the Arrowverse shows, you can tell it's written by fans who really do care about like their fan base and things like that. And they're really trying to please everyone. So I feel like they must really want to do this. I would be like really surprised if it wasn't on their mind at all.
Yeah, it would not surprise me either, Stuart. I think you might be right about that. Doomsday does have a couple questions, or at least one question. Doomsday says, which of the 3 Spider-Man franchises do you think had the absolute best soundtrack ever? So out of the Raimi franchise, Amazing Spider-Man franchise, and the MCU franchise, which do you think had the absolute best soundtrack?
The Raimi franchise, man. I mean, the thing is, like, I like the music from Homecoming, and I actually don't even remember the music from Amazing, if I'm being honest. But man, the music from the Raimi franchise was just so iconic, and
I feel like it still is.
Yeah, exactly. There's a reason they still used it in No Way Home, because it's just that good.
Yeah, I was gonna say I probably recognize that as a more Spider-Man theme probably than any other ones. Even though I think was it Hans Zimmer? I think he did a fantastic job with No Way Home along with Homecoming. I really do like the MCU soundtrack. But yeah, Sam Raimi for me, hands down. All 3 movies I thought were pretty stellar. I think for me, the Spider-Man 2 soundtrack is like the actual only Spider-Man soundtrack I've actually purchased, because I absolutely loved it so much. So for me, probably Sam Raimi too. And then last but not least, Danny Morales. He's got 3 questions here. What's up, Danny? Thank you very much, man, for your questions. Do you see the future of DC comic live action content changing for better in order to compete much better with the MCU? I'm hoping so, Danny. I'm hoping the new CEO over at Warner Media has a much better eye for what he wants to do with the DC properties than certainly what came before. So I mean, yeah, I do think I do think we're even getting there too. I mean, Peacemaker I thought was an incredible show on HBO Max. I think can rival a lot of what MCU is putting out these days. So I do think that they will continue to put their best foot forward. A lot of the great content probably coming on HBO Max than anything else. But I'm hoping they're moving in a good trajectory right now.
Yeah, like I think it really just depends because we haven't really seen what what their big plan is with DC. We hear rumors of a big overhaul, but none of that has been confirmed yet. But I really hope, like, if Discovery is smart, they're going to see kind of the success that they've had with some of their recent projects, like you mentioned, Peacemaker, and I really hope they capitalize on that kind of stuff.
He also asks, might be in the small minority, but I love that the Fast and the Furious franchise changed from a simple street racing franchise to a Mission Impossible heist kind of route. I feel like doing simple streetcar racing films can get boring if it's just the same thing over and over, even for people who aren't car enthusiasts but just want to see some badass action. I mean, I agree. I think that's what certainly has given this franchise so much more longevity is being able to be aware of what you are and creating and expanding. It's a new era in genre that certainly make it kind of fresh these days. And so I think that's definitely have worked to their benefit. Has Fast and the Furious definitely gotten more and more, jumping of the shark and a little bit off track with some of its, physics and stuff? Absolutely. But I think the change was exactly what the series needed. And I think we can see that from just the success that it's had for such a long time.
I don't think it would have worked if it was just street racing for all
Mhm.
those movies in a row. It worked very well
Absolutely.
for the first time, but just, it was kind of it.
He also says, "Do you love that some of the most recent films gave homage to the past films by going back to some old-fashioned street racing?" Again, I'm a small minority who likes the ridiculous stuff in the current Fast and Furious installments, and nothing wrong with that whatsoever, Danny. Like whatever taste works for you when it comes to movies. I'm glad that you're certainly enjoying that aspect of it, and trust me, you're not the only one. I definitely knew some people that enjoy that ridiculousness a little bit of what Fast and the Furious has turned into. But do you like that, Stuart, when some of the most recent films do pay homage to the past films and at least including some of that old-fashioned street racing?
Yeah, and I think they do it like a decent amount in like the newer movies. I don't think they ever. I think it's like their way of just kind of showing like, yeah, we may have become
Mhm.
like over the top action, but
But
we
we're still
haven't
this.
forgotten where we started.
Yeah, and I kind of appreciate that. If you can give me one, maybe two classic, like just old-fashioned street racing and a Fast and the Furious movie, then I'm content. Then I'm content as long as I get at least one. So I think you're right there, Stuart. All right, guys. I think other than that, I think that will do it for all of our live viewer questions today, guys. So thank you very much for everybody's participation and continuing to send questions in. And again, guys, if you ever do want to go ahead and submit a question over, you can do so at any time to A Plus Opinions. Again, that's A Plus Opinions at gmail.com. Submit your questions anytime during the week. If you watch a movie, a television series that you want to review, an article that you read, theory or speculation you want to, pick our brains about, certainly go ahead and submit them our way to A Plus Opinions at gmail.com. But other than that, guys, I think that's gonna wrap up today's show. Datilla does say, speaking of Spider-Man, do you guys know that there's an interactive Spider-Man exhibit opening at the Comic-Con Museum in San Diego, July 1st? I did not know that.
Sounds
Um,
pretty cool though.
I'm excited. I do want to check out the Avengers Academy that they've built. I think that's in Disney World and Disneyland. I did see a cool um robotic Spider-Man that they had that would like swing across the air and like land on the top of another building or something like that. I thought it was actually pretty cool from some of the things that I've seen.
That's awesome. I
Yeah,
didn't know about that.
I think it's like Avengers Academy, I think is what they refer to it as. But I have not checked out the interactive Spider-Man exhibit. But Datilla says she's going to check it out in August. Please go ahead and let us know your thoughts when you get a chance to check it out. All right, Stuart. I think we're going to go ahead and wrap up this week's episode of A Plus Hero Report. But guys, remember, we certainly will be back next weekend to go. Well, maybe we'll be back next weekend. I do have my uncle coming into town, so I will be certainly doing a little bit of hosting. So maybe we'll have an episode of A Plus Hero Report next weekend, but we definitely will certainly keep you posted. This is like back-to-back weekends for me for hosting. We had my mom last weekend for Mother's Day, and my uncle kind of surprised us with a very impromptu visit. Like we had planned on him coming to visit, and I was always under an impression, oh, maybe June, maybe July. And he calls me up one day. He's like, hey, I got my plane ticket. I was like, oh, cool. When? The 19th to the 24th. Oh, you mean this month? Oh, okay. Okay. Just kind of out of left field sort of thing. So we're hosting another relative here next weekend. So we'll definitely keep you guys posted. But feel free to certainly join us every Sunday at noon Central Time, ladies and gentlemen, as we go ahead and break down the week's news. If you're not following us on social media, please go ahead and do yourselves a favor. Stuart, if people want to follow you on social media, though, where can they find you, sir?
You guys can follow me at TurboStew01 over on Twitter and on Instagram. And then, yep, of course, like always, you can catch me here every Sunday here on A Plus Hero Report.
Most definitely. Marcelino thinks you should host, Stuart. He says maybe Stuart can host on his own if Adam can't make it. See, people want to see you, Stuart.
Appreciate it, but like, I don't know. It's just like,
Is it nerve-wracking? Is it nerve-wracking?
It's a little bit of that. It's like I have this thing where I'm kind of dyslexic, but specifically when I read out loud, that's when like suddenly like letters get so mixed and mashed, with me. But like if I'm reading in my head, I don't have that issue. It's literally only when I'm reading out loud. It's bizarre. Like you've kind of seen it from me like a couple weeks ago when we were talking about the
CinemaCon
stuff.
presentations.
Yeah, it's just it's something that I know I need to work on with myself, and hopefully maybe someday in the future, if I can like fix that issue about myself, I would love to for sure.
I will say this, just a tip then. What I would recommend is, because I know we go through several articles, what I always recommend is maybe don't necessarily read the full article. If anything, try beforehand. What I usually like to do is I will go through all the articles. I'll read them out loud to myself, and then I'll pick sometimes specific paragraphs that I definitely want to read. So maybe out of a news article, maybe there's one paragraph that you can read that will really sum up what it is that you're trying to say. Maybe two paragraphs from that particular article also, so you don't find yourself feeling like you're reading so much to kind of trip over your own words. So that's usually what kind of works for me, is to prep before I go live, having read over all the articles and really picking and choosing the paragraphs that I really want to kind of point out. So maybe that's something that you can kind of do if you ever decide to go ahead and host an episode.
Okay.
And make it a little bit easier for you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, guys, definitely go ahead and follow Stuart if you can at TurboStew01. If you'd like to go ahead and follow us on social media, you can do so right up here at the top. A Plus Opinions, very active over on Instagram, as well as our main page, which is our Facebook page. And feel free to certainly go ahead and check us out over on Twitter as well, ladies and gentlemen. And if you're not joining us for our Discord forum community, please go ahead and do so. There is a link in a description box below. The Discord is a fantastic opportunity to interact with us outside of our YouTube and Facebook pages. And there's a plethora of topics for us to certainly go ahead and talk about over at the Discord forum community. So again, if you haven't joined there, go ahead and do so in the description box below, and definitely go ahead and hit that big subscribe button, guys. It definitely goes a long way. We definitely want to make you a part of this family. And yeah, Datilla can attest to that. The Discord is a lot of fun. She certainly likes it also. We have a great time having some great conversations over there.
I'm not sure how active he is on there, but I also know my friend Isaiah has recently joined. I convinced him to do it when WrestleMania was going on.
Oh, nice. Okay, I'll definitely check him out, because I want to say an Isaiah sounds familiar in regards to, because we do get notifications when new people wind up joining our Discord. So I would definitely recommend it to you guys as well.
He might be under the name Mize though, Mize, because that tends to be what he goes under a lot.
Okay, well, I'll definitely check it out. But yeah, guys, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and do so. And if you like the content here this week, hit that like button. It certainly does go a long way. But other than that, that's going to wrap it up for us here, guys. We certainly will try and do our best to be back for you guys next weekend. We'll certainly keep you posted. But until then, do us a big favor as always. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and keep it A+. We'll talk to you guys later. Bye.